Okay, let's get things set up here. Let's see. And there we go. My video is looking awful today, right now. I've only got one bar. So hold on a moment here. I'm going to see if I can adjust some things. Well, we'll see. It looks like my signal's a little bit stronger now, so I apologize. It's really weak today, and I rebooted my modem once, but it's perhaps it is kind of fitting for today because today we are talking about the year 1997 in music. And I have to tell you, I don't have really anything from that year to show. So I'm hoping some other people will be able to join us and show us some music. I've got one CD release from that year. I have a record from another artist that was released that year, but I tell you, I recently learned that this musical artist is like a complete douche waffle, and so I don't even want to mention his name, and so I'm not going to be talking about him for the year 1997, just because the guy is like, he did something that he hasn't denied from, not too long ago, but years ago. And he has, as far as I can tell, done nothing to redeem himself for those actions. And so, yeah, it's tough, especially when an artist that you really really like their material, and then after liking their material for several years, you learn something about them that just absolutely ruins the experience. So I see Jorgen is there. Good to see you. I'll put the invite out here momentarily. But yeah, just let people know that we are doing episode 24 today. And I'm sorry about the video quality on my end. Yeah, that's kind of the thing with me today. Also, I really don't have much. I just have one. That's it. So who knows? It might not be a very very long show, which is fine. That we're not under contract here to to fill a certain amount of time. All right, so that is perfectly fine. I am putting the link out there. I just, wow, it is, my streaming quality is just really bad. I don't know what's going on either with the, oh, I know what happened. Let me fix that. But yeah, I'm looking at the stream on YouTube, and I am pixelated and just look really awful. And you get paid for 2.5 hours, and that's how long you stay, right? Yeah. Well, I'm not getting paid for 2.5 hours. And what I pay for my internet is now also being questioned. God, it's really frustrating because I rebooted my modem, and I don't know what the deal is. This has only happened once before, where the Wi-Fi signal was so weak, and then it never got any better. Now, there have been times when I have a weak, the signal weakens, but then it comes back on, and this is just trash. So hey Ed, how you doing? Hope you're doing better than what I'm doing here with this POS signal that I got going on here. Let's bring Jorgen up and hope that that might improve things. Let me see here.
It would be unfortunate if I did some settings on the microphone.
Yeah. Because, a lot of times I've noticed that when I got somebody else, up on the stage here, it can improve, the video quality a little bit, because my screen shrinks, so I'm not as pixelated. But I can see
exactly what I was thinking. The more people we are, the clearer you get.
Yeah. So, but the issue is I'm looking at my little signal strength, up here in the corner, and it's still just like one little tiny spot. It's frustrating as I'll get out. Hey, Stunty, good to see you also. So I hope you have a bunch of records, Jorgen, because I got one. And
I also have only one from an 87. No, I'm just kidding. I have a pretty good bunch of 1997.
I'm sitting there going, no, you've got to have more.
We show with one record each, and then we close down.
Really. I may, I will. I don't even know if I want to show mine right away, and then just, let everyone else.
Now you got me curious who that other artists are.
Well, if somebody shows it, then if they happen to have a copy and they show it, then maybe I'll say something. But beyond that, yes, Zeb, the Snake Finger record came in the mail like last week, I think. So yes, I did do a video about some of my new records, because I haven't been doing very many videos. I mean, I've been doing this once a week, but like barely getting one video in a week. I mean, I think, let's see, if I go back here, the video I posted today, the last time I posted something, well, actually it was posted last night. The last time I posted a video was October 9th. So, wow, it's been a skint year. for 1997. It's a skint in terms of content. So yeah, I got one. I don't even know if I want to show it right away. Maybe I'll hold on to it for a little while. But if anyone else also, just remember that.
You can be the commercial break when you show yours.
Yeah, but I think there was an indication that Jason might join us. He said he had a bunch of, I'm presuming, dance and house music that from 1997. So I'm sure he's, if he comes back, he left a message, but then I don't know where he went.
And we have also Santi in the house.
Yeah, and so yeah, he's checking his collection. So he's probably got if it's an average year for him, he's got a couple hundred records, I'm sure, from then. So
I can say that 1998 will be my low point year.
Yeah, I haven't, I haven't really looked. And when I was looking in for a lot of there isn't a lot of, at least in the list that I was looking at, there really wasn't a lot of stuff there that I was really interested in, that I would ever, want to get. I mean, there was probably a few, but nothing from that I can see from 1997. I'm looking at the list right now that just really, yeah.
The problem, hi Bipapu. The problem with 1998 is here in Sweden we had what was popular: boy bands, Spice Girls wannabes, the girl bands who tried to be Spice Girls but failed miserably. And we had all these American boring rock bands. We had some hip hop. We have Danish bubblegum, and there was not much interesting at all. And it was really a sign of what was going to be in the 2000s. Yeah. 99 was a little bit higher. It was a little bit better, but then it went. It was a year when I started to actually lose a little touch of new music.
Well, there was Robert Fithen was talking about this before in one of our live streams for the Gunkles, and what happened. We had this movement with a lot of, in the early 90s, with some really good and interesting in the shift in music, and then Kurt Cobain died, and it's not necessarily like he was the linchpin holding everything up, but when he died, it was kind of was, because all of a sudden there was this resurgence of all the crap music that was coming out in the late 80s of the worn out rock and roll. There was nothing going on that was really fresh or interesting going on, at least in rock music in the United States. Grunge and post-punk and a lot of that music really, to me, sparked like a renaissance in popular music.
I remember 98 had that kind of rock that was like semi-sonic and you had Supergrass and all that kind of, that didn't attract me one bit. It was pretty boring in my opinion. It wasn't what I wanted when it comes to like Oasis have done or what. It was pretty boring rock and roll.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking, and I haven't looked at 1998, but my 1990s section of my collection is pretty small. I don't have a lot of records from the 90s. I actually
still you managed to do this series anyway.
Yeah, right. I probably have more records. Oh yeah, definitely. I have more records from the 2000s than I do from the 90s.
When it comes to 2000s, I'm out of here. I started stopped more or less listening to new music. So with some exceptions. So OOs, I'm not sure how I will do if you go into that state.
Well, even then, I'm talking about, I mean, we are in 2022. So we're already 2 decades into, actually, we're into our third decade of of the 2000s, because you had the 2000s up to 2010, 2010 to 2020. Now we're in the third decade of the 2020s. I mean, decades start counting at zero.
I'm going to actually confess that from, I think, around 2013, I pulled myself in. No, I can't. I missed. It wasn't any kind of sign of age or something like that. I wanted to be younger. It was that I missed so much those days that were around these times, 95, 96, 97. When you heard a song on the radio, you fell in love with it. You ran down to the record store, bought the single, and you could listen to it. And you heard the new music. I missed those days. So I've started to listening a little bit more from 2013 and until today when it comes to new music. But not when those who are in the top position of the hit charts. We're talking those who are very much under or over the radar for regular buyers. And I use YouTube, but I don't buy that much records, as we don't have any record stores for new records. We only have a record store for old records.
Well, and the longer, I mean, I've been listening to music since I was in my tweens. So
in my city.
Yeah, so we're going back to the late 60s and 1970s. Okay, so listening to music and all the things and changes that, go on, after a while, it really takes something unique and different to get your attention, because you've heard so much music before. So it's not that necessarily the music, some of it is bad, but some of it is it's okay. It's formulaic, it's not awful. It's not like I want to turn it off, but at the same time, it just doesn't, inspire me to go, wow, what is that? What did I just listen to? That doesn't happen as much, although it's happened a few times in the last, I would say 3 to 4 years with me. There was some different types of music that I am learning about.
I'm a part of a Facebook group that actually does charts weekly over our favorite songs, and there I forced myself to listen to new music. And that has helped me a lot to find news. I mean, there are a lot of bands that I wouldn't have discovered otherwise. But the fun thing is that I think it was around 10 years ago, I always realized that I'm always behind everything. I started listening to Eurodance and Britpop way after anybody. I realized that I'm after. So 10 years ago, I started thinking, hey, this is getting dangerous. If I am always after everything and start to hate it first and then start to slowly like it, does that mean that 10 years from now I'm going to like Ed Sheeran? I'm going to like Justin Bieber and
no.
Rap that I don't like now. Will I like it 10 years from now as I am way after everybody else? So I'm starting to get scared of that.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Well, the problem is I started to find Lady Gaga songs that I actually do like. So I'm getting sick.
Jason, I think you got your YouTube channel audio on, so we're picking up an echo.
Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me with that?
We can hear you, but I think you've got another.
You still got the echo going on there?
Turn the sound off on YouTube.
Okay, is it good now?
Yeah, I think the echo's gone. The feedback's gone.
Fixed it now? Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
No, the echo's still here. I still hear echo.
You still hear?
You still hear an echo?
right now?
Yeah, I'm hearing it too.
Oh, okay. Well, I can go out and come back in. Let's see.
Calling Jason.
See, you don't hear it, so we know it's you.
But I don't have the sound. I turned the volume down on YouTube at the minute I went in.
Yeah, so do I. Whenever I start the stream, I go to YouTube and turn the channel on, but then I mute that so that the volume isn't, because there's a lag, there's a delay, and then it creates the feedback.
I muted that too, but is it working now?
Well, let's see. I'm still hearing some feedback. I don't know what
Here's some
I
feedback.
don't know what's going on.
Maybe it's you.
No, if the person,
I'll do?
usually the
I'll-
person that's the source of the feedback can't
I'll put
hear
some
it.
headphones on. I think I'll put some headphones on. That
Okay, yeah, that's worked for other people, as well. There is, what were you? Get distracted here. We were talking about. What was the last
music.
thing you were talking about? Well,
I said that I'm getting sick. I started to enjoy a couple of songs of Lady Gaga that I found that actually is good. Since they
right.
started
Are
already.
you going to start? Are you going to start liking the people that you hate now? And yeah, I don't think that's. I hope that won't happen.
Actually, Ed, I actually found also an Ed Sheeran song that is good, but that is not because of him. It's the Christmas song he did with Elton John. So I credit Elton John for that.
All right, now I think it should work.
And yeah, I think so. I think we're good. Excellent.
And I got some Halloween candies too while I was at it. So, damn.
Didn't
Halloween.
have anybody
They should
coming
ban
into the building, to my building here. So haven't
Consider
had
yourself
any
lucky.
Halloween people. I don't think they even allow trick or treating, in the building. What they do is there's a community room downstairs, and so they open that up for people and they do it during the day, on the weekend or whatever, not at night.
Right.
So I haven't had
Twix
to deal with trick or treaters in super, super long time, more than a decade.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
Jurgen, you don't have Halloween, right?
Yeah, we have Halloween.
Sweden?
We have it.
Yeah.
We have, for some reason, we have actually adopted it from you.
Okay, because some countries don't have it. A lot of countries don't have it, right?
No, but we have adopted it. But I think it's a question of age. I think it is people on. I somewhere I have gotten the thinking that people under 40 are more into Halloween than over 40.
Well, I like the
in here in our country.
The older
it's
people
a
like
fun time to dress up and go have costume parties and.
I've been to one costume party Halloween once, and that was when I was in the school in 1995. I was dressed as J.R. Ewing.
Who shot
I have
J.R.
big
Ewing?
cowboy hat, I have white suit, and I have a cowboy chain around my neck, and that was pretty it.
Wowzers.
Well, yeah, when we get up to 1998 and 99, I don't know, maybe I should start combining years. I'll have to look at what the year in music in 1990. I mean, to even think of what if I even have anything again. I'll just take a quick look now. But
I'm sad I missed 96 because I had a hell of a lot in 96 actually.
Yeah, 95 and 96 wasn't too bad for
This is
me.
my stack for 97. It's not bad. A couple of CDs too.
Well, yeah, I see that. This is.
I can say that I have.
This is the only one I have.
One. Wow. Okay.
I can say that I don't have as much 98 as in the other years, but I have more than one CD. I can say that.
Well, 97 is a lot of techno for me. 96 was really a peak in house, and 97 quite a bit of techno, some drum and bass as well.
Yeah, I've got some. I've got compilations of some high energy dance and in house music that probably are 1997-ish or something like that. But sometimes the songs that were the hits, at that time, don't necessarily show up in the compilations that I get until like the next year or something like that. So I don't necessarily have them. And as I'm scanning through 1998, I am feeling that this is going to be another dismal year. I'm already into April and I haven't seen a single release that I have. Yeah, God, wow, just
I have some REM. I have some garbage. The band Garbage, that is. Yeah, and so on.
Where's Chris from Record Talk? He couldn't make it.
he didn't. I think he only had one or two. Also,
He didn't bite on this
And
one.
so-
Okay.
I think he's out there in the peanut gallery, but he said he wasn't going to come up, to show anything. Well, all right. So we've kind of chewed the fat here for 26 minutes. Moving in.
Yeah.
Stunty
That's
says he'll
right.
be up in a little while. He has 400 records, which I know he isn't going to show all 400 of them. But he's going to go through them to pick what he is. All right, I'll get my one out of the way, and then I will just let you guys go from there. So and of course this means I'm going to get into the solo layout, which means my image is going to get all pixelated and look like shit. On the YouTube channel, I'm looking at it right now, and yeah, I look like I'm speaking through frosted glass. So I will.
Sounds like a song title. Sounds like a song title.
The
Speak through frosted glass.
so I am just going to go back to single mode, and this is the only one I have. Bob Dylan, "Time Out of Mind." Only one I got. It's a great record. I mean, this was like to me, he was putting out some decent material, for a while, but a lot of it was he was doing covers of other songs, and some of his own original material wasn't all that special. To me, this was like his big comeback. This was good. This was probably his best material since Blood on the Tracks, and a lot of really good, songs in here with "Lovesick" and then "Highlands" was a very long song, "Highlands," but it's really really good. "Trying to Get to Heaven" before they close the door, "Million Miles." So yeah, this was a really great comeback for him. In my opinion, and I was very glad that I'd like to get it on vinyl, but haven't got it yet. And here we go. Here is
There
Alex
he is.
Dickey. Or no, this is Alex Dickey's little helper. Okay.
I fucked myself up very bad. Like, it's so dark now. It's already night, and I tripped and oh my
Wow.
god.
Getting old. Stunty's
Don't be
getting
doing
old.
that.
Welcome to my streams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my leg is all swollen. Oh fuck. Sorry.
we just went into daylight or regular time here, and yeah, it's going to be dark at 5 o'clock.
We got the extra hour. Yeah.
So
Extra hour of sleep.
Here it's dark at 4 o'clock. I don't know how far up you are, Jörgen, but
And Sundsvall,
so
3 o'clock.
yeah, you're like how
Yeah, we're
many
not-
kilometers away up from Stockholm? Like 300.
Like 40 mil.
Okay, yeah. So like almost 500 kilometers. Yeah.
yeah, you guys are much further north than where I am in Chicago. I think
Oh, yeah.
Chicago's more of the latitude of about, I don't know, Paris maybe.
No, Chicago is way more north than Paris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah, it's definitely more north.
Oh, I just found a Swedish
Paris is
record.
close to the middle, to the African border.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad
all right,
Stunty's
well-
here because he will recognize some of my techno records, and vice versa.
Will I? Mm-hmm.
And then he will scold me for not having a certain one. Probably, we'll see.
No. I will scold you if you don't show some flesh, but
Actually, Chicago is the same latitude as Rome.
oh, okay. So
What?
it's
Really?
Then
Yeah.
I have to back away.
I've always
from what I said.
I've always noted that most of Europe is at a much farther north than a lot of the United States. So, yeah, for sure. Join us, John. So,
Is this the first time we have 5 people here?
well, this is great because I'm not talking. See, I've already showed my record and I'm done.
He's done. He's done
I
like
can
dinner.
hear that you're not talking.
I only got
That's
2
the
rock
part you like.
records actually, so that's good if John jumps in. I only got 2 rock ones.
I think it's the
Oh,
first
okay.
time we are 5 people here.
I
Everything
got
else is
tons of
techno.
rock. No, we've been 5 before. The 3 of us plus Rob Walker and
Oh, the legend.
Ah,
Yeah, bro.
Okay, I haven't been here when Rob Walker was on, unfortunately. I discovered it pretty late.
Yeah, it's been a while since Rob Walker's been on. He's probably running around Manchester at night looking for car boot sales.
nah,
boots, yeah.
it's over.
I asked him the other day if that's literally like a car with the trunk open.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what they do.
Well, no, I think it's like flea markets too, right? They
No,
bring
no,
it
no,
and put it on
no.
a table.
They gather in a field, and people
Yeah.
come with their car. No, that's it.
Really?
That's what they do. They come
Oh,
with their
wow.
car to carry the stuff, and they open the trunk.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's not
Sounds
just
very
records,
American.
but yeah, that's what they do. It's like
And
a
the back,
caravan of
and the
cars.
back seat also, if they have something there. It's just
Wow. Backseat vinyl.
All right. Well, then let's we can get started here. I think John will be coming up shortly. I got the link out there for him. And oh, there he is. He's backstage. I didn't see him because
Next thing.
there we go.
What's up,
Hey,
John?
Richard.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Hey,
Joe
John.
again.
No problem.
Jason, Stunty.
The crew.
So get us started, Jorgen. I got us started with my one and only.
I don't know
My
if
one and only.
I was going to say I don't know if Stunk is going to leave us now because what I'm going to show, but he left us already.
He doesn't want to get
He's leaving in
disgusted.
anticipation. All right.
I get it over with by the fast as I can, but I'm going to show a record that unfortunately for some reason I don't. I'm going to, as usual, do a summary of 1997. 97 is a year when I started to enjoy a whole lot of stuff that was outside of the hit chart. In the top of the hit chart, it was starting to get boy bands. It was Spice Girls, one of these, and so on. And I was more into. I was listening to a program in Swedish radio called Single, where they play music from the hit charts in UK and USA. I got British stuff that I enjoyed very much, new American stuff that I like. So. It was an okay year. It started to get a little shaky. The thing I'm going to start with is an album that I don't have the sleeve to. I had it once, but that copy was stolen on a train along with a whole other stuff that I had in a bag. So I managed to get another copy, though without a proper sleeve. But it is still an example of the album that I am going to show. And it is Oasis Be Here Now.
Oh,
I know that was a Stunty I heard.
Grown.
This
That's
album
quite a
has
bit.
been down. This album has been. People have said bad things about it. I stand with the fact that it's very underrated. I like the rock in it. The title track, My Big Mouth, is an extremely great song. I Think I Know is a song that I really like. There are so many great songs on this album. that I feel that this is a really awesome Oasis album, actually. And I stand with the fact that this is a great album, one of my favorites by Oasis. I know that not many agrees with me, but I love this album. End of discussion.
There you go. All right. Well, then, moving on past the swamp of Oasis, then we go over to Jason. What do you got for us? And turn your mic on.
You're muted.
Okay, you guys can hear me now.
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to start off with a couple of drum and bass singles. I don't have a lot of drum and bass in my collection, actually. 8,000 records. I got maybe like 50 drum and bass records. I do like drum and bass. I just never really collected it a lot or DJ'd it a lot. But in 97, you kind of get some smooth drum and bass. I guess we call this liquid drum and bass. And this is one of the big singles for that sort of subgenre. Adam F. Circles. I think he's UK, as most drum and bass people are. This is kind of a commercial release, like a major label release. EMI, Positiva, for this single. A lot of drum and bass was, on the underground tip. Even like, what do you call them, dub plates, not even official releases. But this has Ronnie Size remix on there, and Andy C. Those are big names too. And one other record I'll show this round. Speaking of Ronnie Size, I think this is his label. Stunty can probably confirm some of that. But Shadow.
No. Moving Shadow is not his label.
No. Who did
Moving Shadow is a UK hardcore label that got into drum and bass, or jungle and then drum and bass.
Yeah.
And
so this one has this is the 100th release or something, and this has a Goldie and Groove Rider remixes on it, and that's the logo for Moving Shadow. Okay.
The Moving Shadow stuff, you want to go to the stuff from 92, 93, 94.
Yeah, this is maybe a little late in the game.
Yeah.
Nice
but
label.
it's cool.
I kind of like that label.
Yeah, and this was a cheapie that I got on Discogs. Like, I'm always looking for some cheap drum and bass, but it's a tough genre if you don't know what you're looking for. So,
and I wouldn't know what the. Although that shop that's here in Chicago, he's got so many listening stations set up that I can take stuff and listen to it, So I'm not completely blind, unless it's brand new. If it's a brand new record, then of course you can't listen to it.
This subgenre of drum and bass is kind of very smooth, sort of almost loungy. I mean, it's fast. The beats are fast, but it's kind of got an overall kind of loungy. That's why they call it liquid drum and bass. And then there's like jungle, which is more reggae style, and there's hardcore. But this is somewhat smoother.
I'm going to confess that I won't talk that much when you're talking that kind of music, because trip hop, drum and bass, and dub is a little what I call chaotic rhythm. It is everywhere, so it's not my style. So you go ahead and I listen and learn.
Jorgen, it's actually quite the opposite. It's some of the most structured music.
It is pretty structured, yeah.
Your opinion?
No. It technically is. It's not a matter of. Anyways, yeah.
Real test of a dancer too. If you can dance to drum and bass, you could dance on the half step, right? The half beat, or you could try to really wear yourself out dancing to the exact beat.
Let's just say you're talking to a guy who thinks jazz is like Duke Ellington. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing.
That swing.
Yeah, well, drum and bass got swing. That's the point.
Oh, really?
I know
why haven't anyone told me?
I know I got some compilations that include some drum and bass on them, but they're all from the 2000s. Now, the songs might have been from the 90s, but the remixes that I got, and most of them I think are in these trance compilations that I have. But all right, yeah, I'm really unfamiliar with it.
The thing with drum and bass is that it's very easy to do extremely lazy drum and bass, because basically what characterized the drum and bass is the aim and break and the speed. It's like 175 BPM, and it's tu tu ta tu 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 ta tu 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 ta tu 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 ta, but much faster. Or tu ta tu ta tu ta tu ta tu. So as soon as you do that, oh, it's a drum and bass song. And there's a lot of records of drum and bass that don't do much more than that, but there's a lot that do. And yeah, well, this one is such. Spring Hill Jack is it's a triple LP. It's interesting. These guys come from indie rock originally, but what's interesting is that drum and bass became so big in 96, 95, 96 that the big labels wanted a piece of it. So this is actually on Virgin, and Virgin were basically giving what is going on here. Who is a terrorist? Who is the sound?
It's not
Oh.
me.
Oh, that
I
was
think
maybe it was me.
That was John. John's over here eating candy.
Getting a new piece of gum.
No,
didn't realize
so
the
what's
mic picked it up.
interesting is basically the big labels, they just were so eager to get the next big name that they were signing everyone and giving a lot of money. And Spring Hill Jack were one of these bands who took advantage of that in like doing the most out there stuff. This is basically jazz. This is Miles Davis meets Terry Riley meets Steve Reich meets Detroit techno within the context of drum and bass. And yeah, this still sounds miles ahead of 99% of the stuff coming out nowadays in any form of dance music. And it's the production is awesome, the musicianship is awesome. It is very spiritual as well, but also like a thinking man stuff. And but the fact that no, that wasn't on Virgin, that was on Islands Records, sorry. But same, like they were just handing out blank checks. Please do music for us because we don't understand that music. And often they did wrong. With this, they did right. But of course, it was so out there that this didn't sell anything. And up until a few years ago, you could find this like triple album for less than $5. Now it's changed a little bit because people have started to realize, wow, this is actually really good. And it was basically vanity presses by Island, Virgin, and all these labels. So they did maybe 1,000, 2,000. And yeah, they disappeared in the dollar bin in London, being mashed, and so it's difficult to find good copies of these, but they usually are quite cheap. And the guys from Speaking in Jack, they went on to do a label called Treader, where they did mostly collaborations between them and other musicians, mostly from jazz, like from Ivan Parker to Matthew Shipp, but also with the guys from Spaceman Free. They did one with Jason Spaceman, one with Sonic Boom, and lots of weird collaborations. Very good stuff. So these guys basically they were having the best drugs probably.
I thought maybe I had a compilation record that had some like one track that was drum and bass, but then it's a reissue, but it was from 1988, so no, doesn't count. So anyway,
Next week.
What do we got, John? What do you have for us?
I have a bit, but I was going to say the 90s were tough for me growing up in the 80s. I felt like in the early 90s, probably around 93, 92, I was bored of a lot of the music. You know, growing up with heavy metal, it kind of died in the late 80s. Like it got ridiculous, like got more thrash metal. It turned into like a joke, like the romanticism of original heavy metal was gone. Hardcore and punk by the 90s, I thought was over. And, you know, you had goth was over, the post-punk stuff. So in the early 90s, I was into like going to see local bands and stuff. And I was searching, I was digging back to older music. And there was some bands like Monster Magnet, but not a lot happening. I didn't like the grunge stuff. Like I already heard Sabbath, I already heard punk. And I noticed with the shoegaze and the grunge, a lot of people started dressing down and just looking like regular people. And I think fashion is very important with rock and roll. And I didn't like it. But anyway, So I started digging back into like 70s punk obscure stuff. What was obscure then, now it's well known, but there was the series of Killed by Death came out in the 90s, and they're all through the 90s, but I know this one came out in 1997. This is all like obscure Italian bands. And in the late 90s, you were able to see a lot of reunions of the original punk bands. So I was kind of into that. But 97 and 94 was when I got into rockabilly and completely missed the 90s. But that's that. But I do have quite a bit of records. Sorry about my little speech. But
Nice.
But no, that's fine. You know, and you can show more than one at a time, because if you've got a lot of them, because
okay, yeah.
Just
I'm not
quickly,
showing them more.
we have John. We have a very healthy rule, so that we don't have like James coming to show compilations, like 97 compilations of all tracks from Elvis.
Yeah.
So,
I
Yeah,
think
but-
you can be safe with that, because James has his own stream right now.
okay.
But in the 90s, what was going on, and obviously Billy Childish was going since the early 80s, but in the mid 90s, he was all over the place. I went, and out of all the records, I only have this one on CD. This one was from the Headcoats from 97, the
Oh yeah.
Messerschmitt Pilot's Severed Hand. And Billy Childish and that whole scene was so prolific. And my favorite, the only punk band I really liked in the 90s, which is out of that scene from like the Kent area and stuff, was the Armitage Shanks. And this is from 1997. And they combined 60s garage with punk rock and humor and drinking. And they're my favorite band of the 90s. Probably the best punk band since like 1978, I think. But that was that whole scene. You had the Headcoats, the Buff Medways, all tied around Billy Childish. And just to wrap it up, this didn't come out in 97, but Billy Childish is probably the most prolific artist. But this is a 2 CD set of 25 years, and it covers like the Pop Rivets, the Milkshakes, all the bands he was in. But he must have thousands of releases. But 1997 was great year for that stuff.
Oh yeah, a lot of material there that I completely am unfamiliar with. I mean, just even recently, in some of my record shopping, I am finally starting to see some Chicago, not just Chicago groups, that are having material showing up in vinyl, but Chicago labels. You know, I'm starting to see more frequently. So maybe Taylor Swift is helping things out here and getting more music out on vinyl. So moving on, Jorgen, because I'm done. I don't have anything. What do you got?
Should I take one or two or three?
Well, it depends on how many. You know, if you've got a whole bunch, you know, do two or
I
three.
did only
If
one,
you
and I
don't
have
have a whole lot, you
411.
can-
I don't have
I
400.
do
if
two
that
at a
is-
time, man.
I don't have 400 if that is any good.
Otherwise, we'll be here all day.
Yeah, no,
I think this would be natural for me to show.
Yeah, that's a good one, yeah.
Depeche Mode Ultra.
And you know by
Uh,
whom this was produced, Jorgen?
It is produced by
Rick
some kind of it wasn't produced by the same that does Living Color.
No.
Flood. It's produced by Flood.
No, it's
Oh, yeah.
produced by Mark Bell from LFO.
Ooh.
Okay. I know it's not
Maybe co-produced. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the next one. Okay, sorry about the interruption.
though this is a very, very impressive album. I was very impressed by not only musically, but how Depeche Mode, that when we heard them the last time, they were pretty much down at the bottom of the ocean with drugs, the David Gahn's suicide attempts and so on. And they managed to rise up and continue like nothing happened. People applauded it like nothing happened, and they marched on like nothing happened. And that is a very strong. This is a very strong statement from Depeche Mode. A really great record. Barrel of a Gun, Home is No Good, and Dave Gahan sounds stronger than ever and better than ever. Very, very fantastic record, in my opinion.
I just recently, and maybe it's an old post, but I just recently heard something about one of the members of Depeche Mode very ill, severely
Someone
ill.
died. Yeah.
Did he die?
Yeah. If you mean Andy Fletcher, he died half a year ago.
Oh, so it was an old post then. All right, it was an old post that I just happened to see. Okay,
You're coming with a new album in the beginning of next year.
Okay.
No, I think you're talking about the guy from Recoil who died, who left the Depeche Mode.
No, Alan Weiler is still alive.
The guy from Recoil died.
I think it was
that must be very, very new in that case, because he sent
it's in the past 2 months.
Okay, I never heard of Alan Weiler died.
It might have been. I don't know. I'll have to look up I just know that he's severe stage 4 and was unable to go to some award ceremony or something. Anyway,
Alan Weiler is still alive according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, then it's another guy from that.
It can be another from the same band.
Well, it might have been him that he's still alive. That he's just, I didn't say somebody died. It was that they were still alive.
No, but there have been deaths in Depeche Mode. Andy Fletcher died half a year ago.
Yeah, I think that's the big one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you have another one? Is that the only one you're going to show, Jorgen?
Yeah,
Jorgen's got something else there.
I can show another one. So we can.
All right, boys. Here we go.
This is Sarah Cracknell. I talked about it before. Saint-Étienne.
Yeah.
And this is the album Lip Slide, an album that I fell in love with so much that the year after '98, when I was broadcasted local radio, was a local radio show. I had a segment called the Sarah Cracknell of the Week, where I played one song each from this album until it was all 13 songs, 1 week each. And this is a very, very amazing pop, filled with pop pearls, electronic pop pearls, beautiful melodies and danceable, also very danceable. And I like she has a fantastic voice. So a lot of great. Desert Baby, the hit single, is amazing. So this is a highly recommended pop album, British pop album. So now I can jump on.
Do you know Saint-Étienne, Richard?
No.
Saint-Étienne is a French city that was famous for the football because of Platini was from there. But it's also this British pop band that is before Britpop, and that is probably Britpop, the real Britpop in a way. That is really lush production. It's a duo with the singer, and they had an album right before that one. I believe that the album Jorgen just showed is a Saint-Étienne record. It's just under the name of Sarah Cracknell, but it was probably produced by the two guys.
It's a solo album.
Yeah, and they have an album right before that called Tiger Bay that you would love.
It's a fantastic album. I have it on, unfortunately, only a cassette copy. I want to have it on CD soon.
But if you were into the idea of Britpop, that is like one of the
British pop is many variations. So it.
I remember in earlier videos you were showing Saint-Étienne. So because I always kept saying that, it made me think of.
They have more than one French connection, because they also made some albums, and they made an album, an EP, with the French.
With Vanessa Paradis. Yeah.
No, Etienne Daho.
Etienne Daho as well too. Yeah, they did several. Yeah, because yeah.
I never heard with Vanessa Paradis, but maybe that is possible.
All right. Well, Jason, what do you have for us? And don't forget to unmute yourself. Yeah.
All right. I'm just going to go for it here. I'm going to pull a Mazzy. I'm going to try to scoop Stunty before he shows it. I don't know. Maybe he's not going to show
Do that.
that whole drama. So, biggest album of 1997. Now, this is kind of weird because I find in Discogs it says 96 for the promo copies. but this is a 97 album, and I got it in 97. I actually got it as a birthday gift from a girlfriend at the time. We were raving like crazy in the 90s. I saw this band at a rave, but I don't remember anything about that show. And I'm talking about the Daft Boys. So this is back when they didn't have helmets and stuff. They were just two French guys. And they came all the way to Montreal and performed at a rave. So this is their
It's
debut
more or less
album.
a compilation of the EPs from Soma.
Here we go with the compilation thing. But yeah, no, I get it. I do
That
understand
count. I
what
mean,
you're saying.
compilations are important releases sometimes, you know.
Well, it's not really a compilation. I would definitely push back on that. I mean, it's
No,
not
but
a
it's like the
concept
first
album.
3 EPs out there, and they added. So it's fine. It's their first album for sure.
How about we say it like this? These are all goddamn hits. There's a hell of a lot of hits on this album. Defunk, Fresh, Around the World is on there. Rollin' and Scratchin', Teachers, Burnin', Indo Silver Club. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of hits.
I'm going to admit that I do like Around the World. I think that one is by far the best album they did before the one I showed last week.
And I showed the Defunk single on a couple of weeks ago. That was still on Soma, but this one is now on Virgin Records.
Yeah.
They've signed up. This has got a puffy cover here, I noticed. Anyway, just to close the loop on that.
Well,
here's
before
another
you
Daft Punk.
jump away from that one, the first Daft Punk record is on my want list. This is one that I've heard so many people
You
talk
should get
about, and I do want to pick that up eventually.
It's the only Daft Punk album I really like. The other ones get more.
That's what I hear a lot of people say.
I would say. And now this is a single from that album, as Stunty was saying, compilation. Now check this out, only €2. I don't know if you can see in the fuzzy camera, but I paid like £2 or €2, I think. £2. Got this in some like a boot sale. No, it wasn't a boot sale.
No, you got that at the record and exchange in London.
Yeah, exactly. It's got Slam remixes on here, Ian Pooley, and two DJ Sneak from Chicago.
Yeah,
remixes.
Slam, who remixed that. They run the Soma label where the first singles came out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a good little pickup for £2. Back then, that would have been $4 Canadian. Now it'd be like $3 Canadian. So the pound has really taken a hit.
Yeah.
So Stunty, did I scoop you? Did you have?
No,
Yeah.
I was no. There's very little French. I don't know how it is. Maybe with Americans you don't have that, but in France or in Europe, usually we tend to not like the stuff from our own country.
Right. Okay. No, I think that's a French
Or
thing.
we are more, we are more severe with it.
I think that's totally. a
That
French
sounds
thing.
like a French thing. Otherwise, Great Britain wouldn't be able to sell any records. So, what do you got for us,
Yeah.
Stunty?
Not to mention USA.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show one of the biggest albums of '97 for sure.
Super Duper Fly.
Her early one. That's not her best one, but
Oh, it's
That's
one
her
of the
debut,
two best
right?
ones. I disagree. I disagree. This is the first really good one. The next one is good as well with the blue cover. But this is where Missy Elliott comes onto, like that. People know about her, and it's also interesting as it's a woman, and it's also one of the very few albums where the producer, not the rapper, is. Of course, she raps on it as well, but Missy Elliott became known as a producer because she did the beats for other people, and you got Aaliyah, Timbaland, Busta Rhymes, Lil Kim, Da Brat, who else? And these guys again and again, and of course this was co-produced by Timbaland, but
Yeah.
she did a lot of it. And
what was the big hit on that one? Was there a hit on
yeah.
that one?
Oh, there's many. Suck it. If they don't want to fuck with me, beat me 9 in. Yeah, but the thing is that I remember when this came out, I didn't care too much for it. It was it felt like a little bit same like the commercial shit, and I got it years later and realized that, oh shit, there's some really crazy ideas in the production of this, especially for something to become so big and so commercial. And I think it's really the start of that, when nowadays the really popular hip hop, often if you check the production, it's like really strange, really minimal, with very weird ideas. For example, if you think about one of the recent ones, WAP, Wet Ass Pussy by what's her name? Anyways, like if you listen to the music, it's completely abstract and weird and almost industrial. And I think it starts really with that album that you get tracks like that. Like a little later, you get Amelie by Lil Wayne, also completely weird and abstract. And I think this opened the door for US hip hop to become really experimental in a way that still managed to be mainstream and successful.
Yeah, this is way outside the golden era. Yeah, it's a different style of production.
Yeah, but your golden era is the, it's there's always golden with a genre like hip hop. Golden era, what does that mean? Like some people think we're in the golden era of hip hop.
No, golden era,
but
86 to 93. There's only one golden era.
Hell no. Then you're missing completely Anti-Pop Consortium, which is way better than like 99% of all these bands.
Too experimental for golden era.
No, it's not experimental.
But, I do like Missy. I have some Missy albums, but I don't have that one. I should probably pick that up. That's an early one.
Well,
all right.
Now after the hip hop controversy, what do we got here, John?
Okay, so the 90s is when I discovered the rockabilly scene, and it kind of started in the, I mean, it's always been around in the 80s, but in the 90s is when it peaked worldwide, and it was the most exciting time for me because it was back to, like, first off, it was equal parts men and women in the scene, so it wasn't like some heavy metal with just guys, and at that point in my life, you wanted girls around, so it was so exciting back then because people cared about dressing up and fashion and style. They cared about clothes. We cared about analog and mono and actually using vintage equipment and sounds, and things were released on records. DJs were as important as the bands. And it also, you had a sense of history. You learned about the blues and Western swing and country music. And it was just very exciting time. But 97 was fantastic, like traveling to different countries and having these weekends and meeting people. But all this vinyl, I have so much vinyl from like 94 to 99. But this is a split from Don Cavalli and the Two Timers. It's called Raw and Spicy. And there's a German band.
That's the French guy, right?
French band. And this is a German band doing Cajun music. And it's all recorded on vintage equipment. I'll go through these quick. Jack Baymore and the Bandits is a Swedish band, and they had some hits, on the scene. And all these are 10-inch records. A lot of singles, a lot of 10 inches. Ronnie Haywood was from Canada, and everyone kind of knew each other. This is a fantastic comp, volume 2, and you have Swedish. Al Willis is French, and then another Swedish band, Wildfire Willie and the Ramblers, who just put on wild live shows. And I was going to show, not to toot, but this was my first single, came out in 1997, so it was a very exciting year.
Oh,
and that's me, and hopefully looking about the same. There's another French one, Don Cavalli. This is a masterpiece. And
this is
just
amazing. But this is almost more blues.
Yeah, it's blue. Yeah, mix. It's blues,
folkish blues, and
he some of it's straight up rockabilly. He changes, but a lot of this is just straight up rockabilly. But we were all recording in mono on tube equipment, all analog, before it became hip in 2018 or whatever.
And
people laugh at us.
And to show how much I know about Swedish music, I can confess that I never heard of those bands.
This is so cool. Super underground. Like, this is a whole other wave that most of us don't know.
Super underground. Don Cavalli, he got signed on Universal, or because
he got big for about 2 years. 3 years.
I thought the whole rockabilly thing kind of peaked with the Stray Cats in the 80s.
No,
I didn't realize it was another wave.
In the 90s, it was massive, but it was so underground. Really? I mean, it was thousands,
Like, every big city had bars that were, like, pure, like, rockabilly, where the guys dressed up in leather, and, like, they loved to, because the chick came, and there was lots of cocaine in these bars, huh?
Oh, yeah, sure. Montreal, I'm sure, had that.
Well, yeah, the 80s and 90s, yeah. No, those were great records. I'd never seen or heard of any of those.
I didn't know John
those
had a
bands,
record.
and
That's
I
cool.
do like rockabilly. I love rockabilly.
Basically-
I just, you don't see much
Basically,
of
if you didn't look like a total troll, if you wanted to fuck one evening, you just go to a rockabilly bar because everyone is fucked up and drunk. It's the easiest place to pick up a guy or a chick.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild times. A lot of drinking, more drinking than anything I've ever seen. You know, wild.
Is there a
all
movie
right.
on this?
So
is there a-
again, I don't have anything. What was that, Jason?
I was gonna say, is there like a documentary or anything on the
stepped on
'90s rockabilly?
Do you
No, there was no
know-
Stuff on
cameras
YouTube?
back then. Very few,
Yeah.
very little
Yeah,
footage.
It's like the rave scene, yeah. No camera.
Yeah, and I remember playing rockabilly shows, and we'd see, especially in Providence, there was like a big rave happening. So it was like two different planets. Like
Two
it was
worlds,
like
yeah.
we'd look,
Yeah.
didn't understand it, and they wouldn't have understood us. You know.
And it wasn't at all like the rave scene because it was also a revival. So the media wasn't interested in it. So it was
That's true.
super small. It was tiny.
Yeah.
Like these gigs were usually like, I don't think there were any gigs in Paris for that in a venue that had more than 300 people.
Yeah,
It was-
yeah.
It was under-
But we'd all get together. They'd have weekenders, and that's
Yeah.
where everyone would travel. We'd all travel to different weekenders, and you'd stay there for like 3-4 days, and all the bands would go, and then it'd be like 2,000, you know, give or take, you know.
Mm.
And that's when the shenanigans were.
You had lots of butch lesbians in that scene as well.
No, not too much. No,
Oh,
no,
In
no.
Paris, it
Really,
was
a
a
lot
bit
of
like that.
couples, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe Paris.
All right,
Jorgen?
you're looking quite pensive there. What do you
No.
looking at?
I'm listening and see if I can if I can catch anything of interest. I can take two. You remember this record?
It's
I know
definitely not from 97.
This is my pick for 97. No, I'm just kidding. But this is. Because this is the follow-up that came in 1997. Oxygen Part 7 to 13. An album that, of course, it don't match with this one because this one is an iconic classic. But it is still a great one in the same style and it's really amazing, well made. And a very, really good follow-up to this one. Of course, without the legend status, but still a really amazing, well made Jean-Michel Jarre album. And
See, one of these cases where it's difficult to like the music from your own country.
why am I surprised you would say that?
I prefer, you know what? I prefer much Ralph Lundstein.
I have a few one of him also.
He's the Swedish Jean-Michel Jarre in many ways.
Yeah, but without melodies.
He has some, but yeah.
My second album is something that I bought only, I think, around 5-6 years ago. It is a band that sorry, I took wrong. It's a band that I did like from the beginning. When I heard them the first time, it is a song that the singer from this. When I heard it the first time, I was working as a DJ at tour around Sweden, where we were a tour against drunk driving. We were talking about not taking the car when the people have been drinking, and I was the DJ there, festival DJ, and play music over the area. And when I heard this one, I went straight down to a record store in Visby, Gotland, and bought this single for the radio station because it was so amazing. Verve Urban Hymns. And then I'm talking about Bittersweet Symphony. That was the single that I fell in love with.
Did they go through like a name change? They were called the Verve, and then they were called the Verve Pipe.
I love Verve, and like Verve is great, and then they became the Verve because of the label, and the story is not that interesting. It's just they went through. They just had to add nothing.
All right, so they were different from the Verve Pipe.
I'm
And
going
the
to admit
Verve,
that-
when it used to be the total psychedelic rock shoegaze band, and
Yeah.
then they became that.
Britpop.
Yeah.
This is. I'm going to admit that this was the first time I heard of the Verve, and I heard British Sweet Symphony, not knowing then that it was a sample from Rolling Stones, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
But I can forgive them because they managed to sample it so amazing well. And it is a nice, relaxing Britpop, not as rocky as Suede or Oasis, but it is a really relaxing and really great British pop album.
And John, and the singer of Verve, Richard Ashcroft, who began his career in music because he broke his leg and wanted to be a footballer. Personal anecdote he told me when he was opening for the Smashing Pumpkins in '92. He's married to the keyboard player of Spiritualized,
Oh, okay.
who
Cool.
he stole from Jason the Spaceman.
Interesting.
Rock and roll infidelities.
Yeah.
Hundreds of them. All right. Jason, what have you got up for us?
I'm just checking some dates here, but all right, I'm gonna go to Detroit.
Making sure you're
We got-
legit, right?
We got yeah, double checking my dates. I mean, I think I'm missing a couple things here, but I'm gonna go to Detroit with two artists that are absolutely essential. So this is Detroit's second wave of techno. Okay, it's after the first wave of the Detroit 3. Second wave is all about, underground resistance. A lot of these, I think both of these guys were in underground resistance. At least one of them was. So I'll start off with the one that was the Wizard, aka Jeff Mills. Millsy. So this is the Tomorrow single. Am I getting an echo here? And then this is the Drama single. This is his label, Axis Records, out of Detroit. So this is absolutely essential, like for minimal, really hard driving techno. This is what late 90s was all about for me, which was a lot of this kind of techno. Mills just put out single after single, and this stuff is legendary. It's really groove oriented. It's super rhythmic. I've seen Mills DJ twice, actually. I saw him finally, the first time I saw him was in '99 in Montreal at one of the last raves, I would say, because I'd say rave died in '99 or 2000. Basically what happened after that was all the bike gangs sort of took over. All the
Basically,
big
you
drug
got
dealers.
old, Jason.
I got old, no. But the drug dealers kind of took over, right? And they took over the music programming. And that's the problem. When the bikers try to pick the techno.
Maybe 1 year when there was no drugs being sold in raves.
Yeah, I used to go to raves completely sober for many, many years, just drinking water. And now I'm going out to clubs again, and I'm not drinking at all, and it's kind of fun. It's like a throwback to those days when I just drank bottles of water. Anyway, I got to see the Wizard, aka Jeff Mills, DJ, and he's like this short, diminutive guy, and he's wearing like a suit, and he had like 3 turntables. That was his big thing. He could do 3 decks. And then I saw him again like maybe 10 years ago in Montreal at New Tech Festival, where he DJ'd with drum machines live. So it was like sort of semi-live DJ set. Jeff Mills, legend. Anyway,
Yeah.
Cool.
second one that is also a legend.
Oh wait, Jeff Mills. I wanted to talk a little bit about Jeff
Okay.
Mills
Sure.
because
Detroit.
Jeff Mills is he's got probably over 200 records under his belt now, and he's putting at least 2 or 3 albums a year.
He
and,
is,
yeah. He's become totally academic. I mean, he gets invited to play in museums, to do installations. He's like he's the thinking man of Detroit techno. And I met him a few times, and he's actually, I understand why he is so, because he's really smart. He's listening. He's and also he's got people doing some stuff for him because like he has like a pool of producers who help him do stuff. I kind of gave up on buying his stuff because there's too much, and sometimes it's good, but I have so much already. I probably have 50 releases of him. I would say that this release from 2000 is a very, very good introductory, the Lifelike EP, because it has both his really dance floor hard stuff, because some of his stuff can be merciless, but this one is still very melodic and catchy. And yeah.
He also
I could
did
show
the-
lots, but
He did the score or soundtrack for Metropolis, right? Like he did a version
yeah,
of that.
he got invited to redo the score of a lot of different silent movies. He did the one with
Yeah.
Buster Keaton. He also did the Dziga Vertov Man with the camera. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a big sci-fi nerd too, right? Like his interviews are strange where he's talking about aliens and shit, aliens and techno. I don't know if he really believes it or it's just like part of the shtick. But I'll show one more Detroit one then, another legend. And this is like an absolute stellar techno record. Carl Craig, songs about revolutionary art, food and revolutionary art. This is probably one of the first techno records I got into that's like a super listening album. It's on Carl Craig's label Planet E. And
This is an amazing album.
This is an amazing album. This is a classic album. This has got to be like, this is probably above the Daft Punk. The Daft Punk is more fun, like disco thing, but this has got some serious moments. And Carl Craig also is one of those guys like Mills. He gets involved in other genres even. Like he played the Jazz Fest in Montreal before. And I think this is where, when people say like, oh, techno could be the new jazz, this would be an album version of that.
He did do something that was way more jazz. This is still like Detroit techno, but very melodic. Like you can
Very
listen
melodic.
to almost all songs at home, sitting down. It's really cool. But nowadays it's true. Like I just saw that he was invited to do an installation for the Dia Foundation in New York, which is the place for La Montaillon. And so the most avant-garde of drone minimalism stuff. He's not coming from that at all. He's probably just cashing it. The opportunity of this foundation using the fame and the big name of these guys to stay relevant because they don't know how to talk with youth. Even if Carl Craig now is 55 or so, he's not youth anymore. And
I mean, it's like when I saw Rob Hood, another Detroit legend, DJ at the MoMA in New York, right? Like the art galleries try to get into it or whatever.
But Rob Hood, he still plays raves and the big techno underground clubs.
Yeah. Yeah, Carl Craig is interesting to pick up. It's a good listening album for sure.
He's also very, very short, even shorter than Jeff Mills.
Is he? Yeah. I've seen him play a couple times, but I can't recall. It was in the 90s.
That you mentioned the museums. I mean, it made me think of when Thurston Moore and Kim Gordon, they both had exhibits in the Art Institute here in Chicago a few years ago, and what they were doing in their post Sonic Youth years, still making music, but so many other things that they're getting themselves involved in. All right, Mr.
But the whole thing is that the reality is, like, if this museum comes to me or to John and asks us, like, would you like to do an installation? We're giving you $5,000. Like for Sonic Youth, they will give them 20,000. For someone like Carl Craig, they will probably give him like 35. And if it's Aphex Twin, it will be 200,000. Who's gonna say no to that when you know that like the people who commission that don't even understand the music, so you can do whatever in an afternoon. And sometimes you take it seriously, but
it's art money. Yeah, I've taken some art money before.
So I'll quickly show the as we were talking about drum and bass, the biggest drum and bass single of '97, Photech.
Oh yeah, yep.
This got like
He's
a
good.
very nice video that was going around on, I believe, also on MTV. Niten Ishu Ryu, which is basically a drum and bass track solely inspired by the samurai movies. So most of the sounds, the percussion sounds, are from like either the saber, the katana, or the from the movies the sound
the fight sounds.
Yeah, and the vocals from the fighting of that. So it's very conceptual, but it paved the way to what they started to call intelligent drum and bass, which is at the core, that is like Photech was at the beginning of drum and bass. He was still doing the same thing. It's just that the production got so clean and clinical that it was very impressive to see the motion of the beats just in your head with the sound. And because it's so fast, it gives you also this idea of like technology, progress, futuristic, this single was so cool because it played with that, but also with sounds that we associate from a time from way before, and also culture from way afar. So it played the contrast very neatly, and I'm sure Jason at least has heard of this one.
Oh man, I love Kotek. That reminds me, I really need to get his CDs again. I used to have like 1 or 2 CDs by him.
So Stunty, how long is a track like that?
Usually more than 6 minutes. Like usually between 6 and 7 something. Yeah.
For today's generation, that is like an eternity.
Yeah, but drum and bass is still the same. Like a drum and bass track usually is like around 7 minutes, because you got usually like 2 or 3 minutes of the track, and then the bass comes in. And I'll tell you,
long intros, long outros. Yeah.
Yeah, not okay. No, so this one was 556, but this one was also meant to be to have a music video. The B side is 730. So there you go.
Was that one on the Modus Operandi album? Because that's the CD I had.
No, but like the Modus Operandi album is like coming in the tail of this, and the other big band from that time doing the same thing was Source Direct, and all these guys went on to other like Photek. What's interesting is that in 1999, I believe, he did a house album for Virgin, I think, so all these guys that were really into Detroit techno and all that, but they were in London, and the London gangster, like black guys or white guys, like their parties. It's funny because when you listen to the music, it is influenced by Northern Soul as well, but it's not the grim and dirty stuff from Detroit or the sexy grim from Chicago. It's just like very strange when you see the characters and the music that we're doing. There's a kind of disconnect when you see them and the music that we're doing.
They look very clean cut, even like the the techno guys like Surgeon. I mean, they look extremely clean cut.
Yeah, but the Surgeon is different. Surgeon is really techno, and he's Birmingham. But back then it was a little bit different for him. But so I want to show an album that was very interesting for me back from '97 on Cranky, Chicago. Huh, Richard?
What that Photek though, was that Modus Operandi?
I believe the track this came out originally as an EP, but I think he used that on the Modus Operandi album. That was probably one of the first big selling drum and bass albums, which is interesting because it's one of the most ambitious as well.
It's a great album.
One of the few cases where the biggest selling drum and bass back then was the best stuff, actually.
Best quality.
Okay.
So this Bowery Electric, their second album, the first one is very difficult to find and is kind of noise rock shoegaze. This is shoegaze still, but dub, and from the US, and also a kind of ambient-ish. When I heard it, it reminded me of a mixture of Scorn, Lab Radford, and My Bloody Valentine. This got the female vocals. But the drums are like drum machines, or drums and drum machines, but there's something more like motoric about it, and a little more probably down tempo and dubby. It's a bit dark in a way, but it's quite unique. It's an album that they did a remix album of it with tons of great guys from electronica, IDM, very influential remix album back then. But the album was, it shouldn't have been a success. It wasn't like a big thing, but now I believe this got reissued recently in a deluxe box set because this was going for like $250, even if it's on Cranky, which is not the smallest of the indie labels. As you know, they had Lab Radford, they had like so many of the great stuff from back then. And it's a double LP that beat. Very influential. They had, I think after that they had like 2 other albums, and they got more commercial and not that.
Never heard of them.
Interesting. Cool. Don't know this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, either.
You had to be there.
What do you got, John?
All right. So as I was saying, the rockabilly scene was like a very closed scene. You had to, we only listened to certain musics, but in America, we kind of tagged along with like the 60s garage and surf scene that was going on in the 90s. So you weren't in each other's scenes, but you respected each other. And there was a lot of great bands from like the Bomboras, the Phantom Surfers, a lot of stuff from California. But a great band from New Jersey was the Swingin' Neckbreakers. And it's a little glary, but they were a trio, and they were like 60s garage, but they were modern, and they didn't dress. I mean, they just dressed classic. They weren't trying to be like 60s retro, but they just came out and would just destroy a joint, just like almost like Ramones style, but just rock and roll, almost timeless. But this was modern sounding, yet harkening back to old rock and roll like 1965. But they were fantastic, and that's one of the few that I have on LP that's from '97 that I could think of. But good times.
Swingin' Neckbreakers, what a name!
Yeah, and that was on the
Guy looks a
Telstar
bit
label,
like,
like Telstar, Estrus. There was a lot of cool labels happening.
That guy kind of looks like George Thorogood.
Let me guess that they are wrestling fans with that name.
Yeah, they're wrestling. Just classic Americana. They have a couple of wrestling songs.
Nice.
All right. So, Jorgen, what's up with you have?
I can take a couple, two.
All right.
First of all,
Wait a second. I gotta find your
a
box.
live album that I actually didn't know when I bought it that it was from '97, but this is a reissue from 2016 maybe. This is David Bowie, 7 Months in America, where he toured around and did radio shows and so on, and recorded them.
Is it like the stuff from the album Outside?
No, this is a reissue from an album that is a CD.
No, but like, is it like a studio album or is it a live album?
It's a live album.
Yeah, and is it a live album for the stuff from the album Outside, the one from '96, with I'm Afraid of Americans and stuff like that?
Yeah, there is I'm Afraid of American, but it's also Moonish Daydream. So it is Scary Monster. So it's from most of his career.
But what's interesting is that back then, it's like right when he had his complete remake, one more, when he started to do stuff like 9 Inch Nails, which was quite unexpected.
Yeah,
in a way.
that post Tin Machine.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really great album. It's a very interesting set of different kind of shows that he has recorded, radio shows and so on.
It's funny though, like, as you know, John, like when you look at the cover, the design of it, the way they put it's kind of the same kind of aesthetics that you would get in the Matrix, like having the titles like they're like kind of parasiting. You can see that's the zeitgeist of the time.
Yeah, Bowie, if you look at like Young Americans, if you look at these, they all look like 80s covers, but they're all from the 70s. He was always ahead,
Yeah.
What? Who was the guitar player for that tour? Is it identified on there? Was it Adrian Belew?
It's a total white feet. So I haven't. They haven't been posting that information here. Actually, you have to look up on the CD version. I don't have that one.
Okay. I was wondering if it was going to be Adrian Belew or if it was Carlos Alomar.
I have to Google it later. The second one was mentioned above by someone who mentioned this, so I thought that I should take it also. U2's Pop. And this also is a really great album. Discotheque, Staring at the Sun, If God Will Send His Angels, little forgotten but great U2 album.
Yeah, I kind of remember when it came out.
I tried to forget.
I really don't. I don't remember that.
The last good one by them, I'd say.
What? Going back to the Bowie album, what was the name of it again?
7 months in America.
7 months in America?
Yep.
Okay.
Even best of 7 months in America.
I need to. I'm just doing some digging here to see what's going on here. And that's 1997. So, all right, go ahead next. While I'm doing this, sorry.
All right.
What do you got, Jason?
Okay, I'm gonna jump into a couple of house records this time. Some house singles. Been showing a lot of techno. And first up, I got two here. First up is a Chicago-based singer. I don't think I realized she was from Chicago. I always thought she was from UK because she seemed to be bigger in the UK, as happens a lot. And she passed away in, 2019, I think? I'm talking about Kim English. This is just a really beautiful track for Deep House. Learn to Love. Great track. Produced by Mood to Swing out of Toronto. And you have Francois K remixes on here. That guy's a legend house DJ, disco to house DJ from New York. Mark Wyatt, also a legend house DJ from San Fran. So really great remixes, really great single, Learn to Love. I think there was a second one as well.
For those who don't know, that's one of the 2 or 3 legendary house music labels from New York.
Nervous, yeah. I was just going to say. And then Nervous had like a sub-label for hip-hop too, right? They had Rec.
Yeah.
Which had
actually,
Black Moon.
I had a record where the artwork was the same, the logo of Nervous, but with me, like where you added the mustache and the long hair cut the same way.
Nice. The second one I got, this is a bit of a disappointment because I was kind of looking for this single. I just got this through Discogs. And so what happened with this single, as many house singles, they have like multiple editions come out. And this is like the third one. Anyway, it's Boris de Lagauche, Hold Your Head Up High.
Who?
Boris de Lagauche.
Boris Dugloche.
Lagauche, yeah. I can't say it. European French kind of style, but he's German, right? Dugloche?
Yeah.
Or is he French?
I'm not sure.
He was big in the 90s. This was one of his big ones. This is not the biggest one, but Hold Your Head Up High.
This is very commercial. Very
commercial. But with a Derek Carter remix.
Yeah.
But it's disappointing because Derek Carter sometimes kind of phones it in with his remixes, to be honest. And the other side is all, I can scratch that because there's no vinyl on this side. It's just a one-sider.
You know why you don't scratch that? Because that's how you set up your turntable. It's with these records.
This? No, it's...
Yeah, anti-skate.
Yeah,
right. That's how you can adjust your anti-skating using
this
those.
This one does have a texture to it for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I always hated the one-sided. I mean, you think, like, what a waste of vinyl, right? Like, just one side.
You're such a capitalist, Jason.
Well, it's actually cheaper. It's actually quite capitalist for them to do one side, right? Because then they don't have to do 2 plates. They just did 1 plate, I guess. But yeah.
All right.
So a couple of house singles from 97.
Cool.
All right. Hey, we're not doing too badly here, going on 90 minutes. So what do you got for us?
I'll show what is arguably for my world, the biggest single of 97, but it's quite interesting, the version I'm showing. So, Richard, please check the Make Me Big, because it's the promo version of a single that came out as a single, 12-inch, and it's a double 12-inch because it has some extra tracks. And look at this. This is the artwork. So this is, you see, my face from the Richard D. James cover with different mouth shapes on the 4 labels, which seen through the central hole change my expression. This is Come to Daddy. Here is the DJ return, like basically that I was sent by the label so that I would tell what I thought about it, so that they could use to hype the record, because this was the advanced copy. So with Come to Daddy, basically Aphex Twin, the biggest electronic act from the 90s, taking the piece out of Prodigy, outdoing Prodigy with the title track "Come to Daddy," which got famous because the video was huge. It's one of the biggest videos of the 90s. You get small kids, where they morphed the head, of Aphex Twin on with a grin, like a really evil grin, and you see the kids going around and beating the shit out of people.
Really strange video.
Yeah. And it's got tons of, like, basically it's almost like a mini album, and it's got some beautiful tracks, like crowd rock, electronic stuff, ambient stuff, some more electro stuff, and a couple of really hardcore versions of Come to Daddy as well. And I just love the design of that record, that it's so simple but also so striking in a way, like always like a very specific color and really bold fonts.
It looks like the UK design group there, like the Hacienda.
Yeah, totally. It's the Designers Republic who completely shaped the
it is, right? Yeah.
the decade, as they did with this album from Ottaker from '97. Ottaker had 5 records out of in '97, 2 double EPs, and this album, Chiastic Slide, which is their 4th album, and subjectively my favorite one. I always said so because of a track called Tiwi. It's got like a very, all the cover on these records, they always have something. Like this one has some weird select varnish, as you can maybe see a little bit here. And usually the select varnish is what you have the least on the cover. On this one, it's the opposite. And
these are more challenging kind of listens, Stunty? Like that and Aphex Twin is a bit of a challenging listen, probably.
Back then, it was the music of the time. I mean, there's no music that is more. I mean, if you want to hear the new sound of that time, that's the music that was the most looking forward while still coming from the pop tradition. This is not music from the academia. This is still punks. I mean, Richard D. James.
But it's also not just for the dance floor either. It's
no.
On,
But it is, it is just like really cool punk electronic music in a way. But punk in the sense that like there's no rules. I'm gonna do whatever I want. But this is done solely with electronic instruments. And Ottaker have like this. It's the only band I have everything of. It's I have more Ottaker stuff than Nurse's Wound, and they were really like the most revolutionary stuff you could hear back then. When like a lot of people from my generation, when we heard that fucked us up. That didn't fuck us up. That put us on the track of okay, now I want to see the future.
And, Dead Wax has got it. Challenging for us, not Stunty, exactly. A little bit of a warning sticker, but worth the price of admission. Definitely worth.
Yeah, well, back then, like it was in the middle of the culture, so you were prepared. If you were like listening to the indie stuff from the early '90s, that prepared you for that. If you were listening to the hip hop from the late '70s, late '80s, that prepared you for that, because Ottaker, at its root, most of the 90% of the tracks, the beat is 90 BPM. It's like a hip hop beat, but like, or an electro hip hop beat.
But these guys, let's be honest, they're very maximalist. Like I got to see Ottaker in the late 90s when I was really into minimal techno. You had a compact and all that sleek minimal, and Ottaker was like the opposite of that. It was just like everything but the kitchen sink. I mean, it is, like you said, kind of techno punk in some ways.
I totally disagree with that. Like Ottaker, they perform in the dark, and like there's nothing to see, and it's very minimalistic in the sense that usually an Ottaker track you will have, it starts with the rhythm, and then you get some melodies, and the rhythm starts to fade, and then you get some pads, and the melody starts to fade, and you only get the pad. So it's quite. There's always a structure that is very minimalistic in a way. But it's true. I think that what Jason means is more that it's basically in 1993, 94, there was a law in England called the Criminal Justice Bill. The government hated the fact that there were raves and all that. So they passed a law that you are not allowed to play repetitive beats for more than four people in the same room,
Yeah.
basically outlawing raves. So Ottaker did an EP called the Anti-EP, which was solely made out of the idea of making dance music for the party, but without any repetition. So
Yeah,
it's
that's what I mean,
coming
yeah,
from
yeah.
that idea of like
They're creative, very creative.
yeah, like going around the the traditional form of it, but acknowledging it, respecting it, but also like pushing it.
Yes.
And they are one of the most important bands for me, but really for the 90s, people of my age who follow that, it's
an acquired taste. I'm still gonna say it's a bit of an acquired taste.
You're old.
Yeah, well, I'm old enough to remember Outtaker. We'll have our battle some other day. I was just looking to see if I had Chemical Brothers CD, but I dig your own hole, but I don't seem to have it.
Well, all right. These are Outtaker I'm not familiar with, but I do know that Aphex Twin is something that I'm starting to explore a little bit more. So looking into that material. So John, what do you think?
Were you aware of all that back then, John?
What's that?
Were you a little bit aware of these artists or this music, or it was?
I was living completely in the 1950s, from furniture, clothes, cars, even suitcases, shaving,
vintage.
Everything. But underneath, like, all those subgenres, the garage rock, the rock and roll, the heavy metal, there was the lo-fi scene, which was kind of the underground of the underground. And it really started, and it wasn't even a scene, but like John Spencer and Pussy Galore in the late 80s, the Mummies and the Gories from Detroit, the Mummies from California. And, the lo-fi scene got, it basically, the White Stripes came out of it. And the lo-fi scene has a lot of cool bands that came up. But this actually isn't from 1997. This record is Supercharger, which is one of the first of the lo-fi bands. But it was put out in 91 on their own label, like a private press. But this came out in 1997 on Estrus, and really like started the wave of the lo-fi when people went back and found the Mummies. And this is just a landmark record for, I don't know, lo-fi, rock and roll, punk. Actually, you do care about the sound, but you wanted it to sound lo-fi, cheap instruments, poorly recorded, just get the energy and emotion. And this is the stuff I got into after rockabilly. I started getting into that and had a lo-fi band and the Demolition Doll Rods. There was so much good stuff happening in the late 90s, early 2000s. And the scene's still happening. I'm not really part of it, but, like Jason Rojos, who's in Rachel Stream, he's kind of is based off of this stuff too. But that's it. Supercharger from California.
It's interesting you called it lo-fi because, and especially when you put the span from Pussy Galore, John Spencer, Blues Explosion to the White Stripes, as my understanding of it is as they care really about the gear, the vintage gear, but it comes from the noise rock side more. Because for me, like during the early 90s and throughout the 90s, the lo-fi scene, that was quite different than what you're talking about. It was actually really lo-fi. I don't care about the sound. It's just I want to do the melody. So it's the early Beck stuff, the Pavement stuff. That was what was like in the lo-fi section.
Yeah, I didn't really term lo-fi. That's just what we called it. Yeah, I mean,
but I mean,
you know what I mean.
I didn't know,
but we did care. It was, we would get the vintage amps. Like we would spend a lot of time to get that gnarly fuzz or whatever. The microphones mic'd over here, so it's a room sound. A lot of people maybe recorded and didn't give a shit, like the Mummies. But it's, I don't know. It's hard to explain. But just to have a raw sound.
Band that kind of is like exactly what you say, but like that goes in both directions, like really caring about the vintage gear, but also having this really aesthetic of sounding like shit. It's Dinosaur Jr.
Yeah, but I used to see them. I know Dinosaur, I just didn't put them in that scene. I'm talking just, I don't know, it was like a lower club scene. You weren't on that level as Dinosaur Jr., like where you'd spend time on your songs and stuff. Like, it's hard to explain, but it was totally separate. These bands weren't listening to Dinosaur
Yeah.
Jr. and Dinosaur Jr. weren't listening to those bands. But
Yeah,
It's just like usually they say like one of the ultimate lo-fi rock band is Sebado from the bass player.
yeah,
from
I used to
Dinosaur
see.
Jr.
Yeah, I used to see those bands. I was in Boston, but I mean, I guess you could argue that. Cheetah Slicks, another band like that. If you remember them,
Yeah.
they're still around, I think.
There's all kinds
You know,
of
they were
lo-fi.
almost more noise rock.
Yeah.
Whereas
I
I
am
think
more
lo-fi
familiar with
bands had much more of a traditional history of rock and roll,
Yeah.
and you could hear that like the songs were based off of like the template from the 50s and 60s, not so much 70s rock or punk rock. I mean, maybe classic punk, but
No,
you know what I mean.
you're correct. Like Dinosaur Jr. is more about the 70s rock. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, the
the
template was that 2-minute song and chords, sloppy solo, whatever.
Yeah, I'm more familiar. I'm not so much familiar with the lo-fi of that particular era. I was looking. I have some lo-fi, but would be called lo-fi records, but they're all from the 2000s. They're all more
Yeah, well,
recent.
it was big in that era, and lo-fi. It wasn't such a, there's all these bands we grouped together, but they weren't necessarily like a scene or a sound. So it's a loose term,
Yeah. So yeah, because car seat headrest pretty much began very lo-fi, and then there's Dead Ghosts, but these are much more recent. And then some of these other bands that I have found are, I mean, even the cover art, is like it's really fuzzy and distorted. And then but this is an album from 2021, a Chicago band that finally put all their material on a record. They've been around for a long time, but this was the first time they put it on record. I was quite surprised with the popularity, I guess, with many artists of choosing the lo-fi method of presenting. And I always wondered, I wonder what they sound like live, because to get that sound and have it on a record you have to, it's contrived. Is that, because you have to create the sound, right? Or is it
not necessarily? You set up your equipment, it just gets mic'd, and you bash through the songs live. The problem it's not a problem, but I never listened to the stuff on record. I love seeing the bands live, and I would play with bands or see them, and I might buy the record or CD, put it on once, and it gets filed away. But I just like the feel of it, the energy, and being around it, and just that rock and roll attitude of just like anyone could do this, like with Buddy Holly or the Sonics.
I would like to see some of these that I have on vinyl. I would like to hear what they do live. Although some of them you can tell that they recorded it with very minimalistic equipment in a bathroom in their apartment.
That's Richard. The way to address that, like basically the main instrument, the most popular instrument of lo-fi rock from that area is the 4-track recorder. That is like every band there, they started by doing their tracks just overdubbing so that the quality of the tape also gets down. And they didn't care. They put it out that way. The labels were fine with that. Sometimes they even, like, for example, the first, I personally, I don't like Dinosaur Jr. at all because I can't stand Jay Massis. But the first commercial album or the first commercial success, he meant it to sound bad. Like he went into a fight with the label because he said, no, I want it mastered that way. And well.
Yeah. All right. Well, Yorick, we're coming up. Actually, we're coming up on 2-hour mark here in about 10 minutes, 12 minutes. Not bad for like I said, I only had one record.
Richard, come on.
So let's go around another time around the horn here. Show what you got here. We can finish off at the 2-hour mark. So Jorgen, what do you have?
Should I take how many rounds do I have?
Just one round? I got enough for a couple rounds, but
No, we could do a couple rounds. I mean, I'm just saying right around the 2-hour mark.
I showed 3 records now.
All right, so we'll do 2 more rounds. All right,
Okay.
All right. The last 2.
to satisfy and appease you guys.
Yeah, then I take 6 now.
All right.
First,
Oh, there he is. He's got it.
David, ask and you shall receive.
There you go. Good album.
Chemical Brothers, Dig Your Own Hole. This is a really great record. One of the best big beat records. Block rocking beats. We have Setting Sun, also a really great one.
Funny videos too. I like their videos.
Yeah. I haven't seen the Block Rock. I have. Oh, sorry, I have. I have the DVD. With
they have that one with the gymnast, like the gymnastics one. Was that Setting Sun? I think that was. Yeah.
Setting Sun is the fireman, the girl who comes to the fire and something like that.
Chemical Brothers is the first band. The first time ever I bought the album because of the hype. I get it home, I listen to it once, and that no, not for me. I'm selling this. First time it happened to me.
It was commercial back then. I've come to like it even more now. Nostalgia.
The next is a band that I showed last week, and then the new album came with them. I found it out on the internet, and I went down and special ordered it on the record store. And it is another album by German Experience. For those of you who missed it, Experience is a German band who is a little crisscross between Eurodance and synth pop style, with the vocalist Claudia Uhle, who is, I think she's trained opera singer, so she has a very high voice. Take Me Home is not as danceable as Magnetic Fields album, but it is very beautiful and very relaxing to listen to. This is a band that it's a typical Jürgen album because I'm maybe the only one who likes it. But when I heard the single of this band, I was knocked out because it was so cool. And I'm talking about another German band that also had members from different kind of countries, but most of all they were influenced by Brazilian music. I'm talking about Bellini. And the single and the album is called Samba de Janeiro, and it has very much samba beat, and it is so cool. It has that kind of little cheesy James Last horns, but with some kind of a danceable samba Euro beat in it. And it is the album. I'm not going to say that it's a perfect album, but it is a good, really good album. And it was very interesting because I bought this one full price when it came, and then a friend of mine, he went to a record store the month after and managed to buy it for $1. Imagine how pissed I was.
Yeah.
It's like $1.
Savage Garden. Now we're getting really commercial, and this is the only Savage Garden album I feel I need. But To the Moon and Back is really, really great, and I actually do like Julie Maverick deeply. So I think that this debut album is actually pretty okay. So the genre. Erasure we mentioned many times. Cowboy. I'm not going to say that this is a perfect album, but it is a good, solid Erasure album with a lot of great stuff. We have Eternal. I missed to show them in 1994 since I wasn't here then. So I've taken it back by showing Before the Rain. That contains a duet with D.B. Wine and someone I want to be the only one. That was a huge hit. But this is a great, smooth soul album. And some indie pop. Seahorses, Love Me or Leave Me. This is, I think, one of the most modern 7-inch single I have. Oh,
So a UK 7-inch looks like because
the rest in the next round.
All right. So you saved some for one more round then?
Yep.
All right. So what do we have, Jason?
All right, I'm going to do my Swedish round. This is going to be my Swedish round, and then I'll leave a couple for the last round.
So Jesper Dahlbeck?
No. I'm going to start off with Carrie Lakebush.
And that's almost, yeah.
Going to get the channel shut down, maybe, but sexy cover. Jürgen led the way, of course, with his Brazilian bum. We've got a Swedish bum this time. Hybrid label is the label that is run by Carrie Lakebush. But, Carrie Lakebush, I mean, this is not Mills, but it's inspired by Mills. It's inspired by the UK guys, right? Stunty, I mean, I don't know if...
no, he's a friend of mine. And
what's
Carrie,
your feeling about Carrie's techno? This is
we
minimal
call him,
techno.
We call him Plastic Carrie because he's like... His main influence is hip-hop by far. But it's an interesting career he had because his label was pretty successful back then. He even released some really good remixes of DJ Hype from Chicago. Really good stuff. But it's kind of funky techno.
Yeah, rhythmic.
But quite hard.
Floor.
Still quite hard, but it's a little more. It's a little less merciless techno from that area, but it is kind of. I mean, it's '97, so it's the age of Midwest acid techno.
Right. Yeah. It's not. I mean, it's not Detroity, and it's not like as technical
harder.
as say Surgeon is. It's hard techno. Basically.
And now Stunty and I demands that you read the title, the Swedish title.
Oh my God! Yeah, I was gonna say like that's what I was trying to show you guys. Like I have no fucking idea. Vet dom som for at.
Pretty close. That's pretty good.
Vet dom som for at. What does that mean? Leave some for later.
It said on the. I saw it was on English on the vinyl.
On the spine, maybe.
No, on the vinyl.
Yeah. No. Therefore, because.
Exactly.
No. Therefore, because. No reference to the lady, but anyway. All right, another Swedish band that we here we're going to go outside of techno for a minute, but we would be we have to show Entombed, right? I mean, Swedish death metal legends, and this album is a bona fide compilation, Stunty. This is actually a compilation of past songs because they got their start in like 91, maybe even 89. I don't know. I'm a little late to the game for metal in the 90s.
I feel that a band called Entombed. You'd rather say they got their end rather than their start. It starts with the end when you decide to call yourself Entombed.
This is on the Earache. This is on the Earache label, and I got to show this compilation. This is hilarious for me. Like again, I missed this whole kind of genre. Like I wasn't deep into techno and house in the '90s, so I wasn't following what was happening in the punk scene or the metal scene. And probably to good order because, metal in the 90s, a lot of like trashy kind of new metal stuff. And this label putting out lots of stuff, Earache. So look at this 90s cover, Earplug 2. And, but this has got killer bands on here. Napalm Death, Carcass, At the Gates, Entombed, Godflesh, Pitch Shifter, AC, which we won't say what the name
is. Is it like means. A label sampler? Or is there
Yeah, it sounds like that was all early 90s stuff.
So what's so fucking funny about this stuff though is like it goes from like really death metal into like almost like ravey techno.
Yeah,
they're totally bridging the fucking gap here.
Yeah,
they obviously
don't they have like a band called Terror Machine or something?
Well, Extreme Terror,
Terrorizer?
Extreme Noise Terror.
Extreme Noise Terror. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they're getting into like industrial almost. I mean, it's pretty fucking tacky. It's pretty dated stuff, but it's a fun romp. I'm glad I picked it up. It's really funny. I'd say about half these songs are pretty good. The other half are just like atrociously dated. That's this round. I got a couple left for the last round.
So good transition then, because an
Some
album
rock.
that came. So Godflesh they put out an album called Songs of Love and Hate that I didn't like too much that year, because it felt like the guitar weren't more metal, like rock and roll metal. It felt like a little bit like from the past. But then they put out a CD, Love and Hate in dub, which got issued on vinyl years later. But I got the CD back then, and that I loved. This is basically grindcore dub versions, like really psychedelic, heavy industrial dub, very slow, very psychedelic in that sense. And
Remixes?
I mean, the name of the songs, like Circle of Shit, right before Almost Heaven, Frail, Sterile Prophet. It's just like typical of this like teen angst, I guess, you had like in metal and grindcore and all that. But when you hear this is really, there's nothing like that back then. Like, I mean, there is some stuff like you named the Pitch Shifter and all that, bands that were kind of hinting at that potential. And this album is really the perfect fusion of both worlds, like the best of Godflesh with the best of Lee Perry and the best of Einstürzende and Neubauten in one album.
Hey,
so,
Stunty, Circle of Shit is on this CD actually. It's on this CD. But yeah, you're totally nailing it. It's obviously a teenage kind of world with the song titles alone, right?
Yeah.
But they're starting to invent new things sound-wise.
John?
So, Stunty, as I said before, I saw Godflesh's first American show. They flew into Boston, and they were playing with Napalm Death, and something happened with the luggage, but the drum machine got erased. They were supposed to go on first, so they were like frantically programming the drum machine on the side of the stage before Napalm Death was done. But anyway, you had showed that record a while ago, and I sampled it, and I was very impressed with it. You know, it's not my bag, but it was a good record, and I appreciate you turning me on to that one.
Yeah, there's two mixes of Almost Heaven. One is better than the other, but like the one that is good is like really timeless. It manages to achieve something timeless. When this kind of music, it's easy for it to be very dated, as Jason was saying. And that show you mentioned that must have been like 89 or 90, I guess.
It was definitely 90 or 91. It wasn't 89.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's kind of.
It was at the Channel in Boston. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the area of Pure, so you caught them at the very best. But it's funny you say that, because I've seen Justin Broderick, the guy from Godflesh, in all his, like, every time he played in Paris under the name of Godflesh, Jesus, Techno Animal, Sidewinder, whatever, all this, always some trouble, technical trouble that made either the gig delayed or that they couldn't do it the right way. I guess he must be messy, because it's like a common feature of going to see them live. There's always something that goes wrong technically.
Yeah.
But another, as Jürgen was talking about albums that are far from perfect, here's the perfect album from Chicago. Jim O'Rourke, Bad Timing. It's 4 long tracks, or 5. Jim O'Rourke comes from the avant-garde tradition and noise in the US, but he also did some indie pop and lo-fi. He comes also from the lo-fi indie punk rock, and he became a member of Sonic Youth, and he also was the guy who Wilco hired to produce and write some of the songs on their biggest album, the 4th one from 2001 or 2002. But this album is the reason why they wanted him, because this was also kind of a zeitgeist album, as it heavily shows the John Fahey influence. Like Jim O'Rourke is a very, very good guitar player, extremely gifted and extremely technical, even if he also can do some really minimalistic noise and also noisy lo-fi pop. But this is like a feature of dexterity, but if it would be just a spoof of John Fahey if he didn't add anything, because he plays as good as John Fahey, but he adds other layers, like one track which is like steel guitar, finger picking, that suddenly there's a brass that comes in, a gigantic, very joyous brass out of nowhere. So it is a very surprising, inventful, and clever album. But yeah, the guitar playing is insane. The melodies are so good, and if you like John Fahey, you'll love this. And it takes it beyond that. And it's Chicago. And lastly, for this round, yes, a really heavy, influential, not the techno electro album, The Advent, from the UK. 4 LP albums. That I love that, by the way, that a lot of these records back then, the techno records were at least double LPs, but often triple 4 LPs. And this one is a 4 LP.
With custom labels, as they would say in Mo-Fi world.
Yeah, and this is on their own label. It was quite big. It was like kind of the UK answer to Drexciya, and more clubby, very good electro. And it's a duo, and one of them went on to become Mr. G, which is probably currently, for the past 10-15 years, one of the 5 biggest names in underground tech house.
Yeah,
really good. Colin Fever, really, good underground UK techno. That when there's not that much techno from the UK, that was really pure dance floor. There's Surgeon, but a lot of the UK stuff had more melodic, and this is like really banging.
Good
but
stuff.
Also pretty unique.
It's well produced, yeah. It's a British style techno, yeah.
3 albums.
Sorry, I was looking for something because I actually have another record that was released in 1997, but I don't know where I have it filed. Because it's a 10-inch of Tono Bungay, some kind of psych rock that I picked up someplace. I'll have to keep looking for it.
It's John Stern still.
Yeah, I know. Right. That's why I was snoozing though on changing what was going on here. So So John,
I was thinking about that Napalm Death show and that Godflesh show, and I remember, like, this is my whole headspace in the 90s. Like, I had already seen Celtic Frost and Slayer and like all these bands in the 80s, and then Napalm Death came out, and it was just more of the same, except like kind of more over the top, and the guy's just in sweatpants. And I just remember being so discouraged with the 90s, and then the grunge, all this like depressing music. But I just thinking about it now, how I got into rock and roll again. But I really have no more music from 97. It's all rockabilly. So I pulled out, this is all my 90s rockabilly singles. So I think these are all from 97. So I'll just show them quick. Nobody cares, but you're not going to see them. This was High Noon. This is a great Texas trio, and they played Japan in 96. This came out in 97. But all these cool 45s. It was just so much fun collecting these. This is Ike and the Capers from Germany, and really cool. And they had a girl in the band, which was, uncommon, not rare. This was Kid Rocker. He was a 13-year-old kid from England, and he had a hot band, and the chicks loved him. But it was fun. Junior Marvel might be a French or Belgian band, and they were really good, like a Gene Vincent style. And I just love all these 45s. Red Peters. She was more of a jump blues, rhythm and blues. They had horns and doing that kind of 1950s music. And it was just that's all I have really. But it was just fun. All these singles. He has a compilation. It's an EP, but they actually tuck in like a song from the 50s in here, an instrumental. So it mixes with new and old. But it's kind of cool.
I like seeing these though, John, because like if I'm in a shop somewhere and I'm looking through rockabilly and I see something that you've shown, I will probably pick it up, right? Because I know your taste.
Yes, some of these are collectible now, but it's only to a small group of people. But there were small presses from different countries, Europe. But it was a really fun era, and this is my 90s. Was like,
hey, we love obscure records, man. You're in the right
so
place.
I missed most of the 90s,
Obscure sevens.
All
Yeah,
right.
but you're catching
Well,
up
I
now,
couldn't,
John.
I couldn't find the Tunnel Bungay. It's in my collection. I just don't know what shelf I have it on. But it, it's, I guess, folk rock, psychedelic rock on the Squealer label. So it's a 10-inch I have someplace. There were a bunch of records that I bought for like $1 or something like that because they didn't have covers. And so there was this small bin at this one record store. And I actually picked up a couple that turned out to be really, really rare that go for quite a bit of money if I had the cover. Although one of them I saw sold on Discogs, it was without a cover for $70. So, but anyway, I should have been slightly better prepared on that one. So we're going here with our final
You only had
round.
2 records. You only had 2 records, Richard, and you managed to fumble it.
And the thing is, it's in my Discogs collection. I have it categorized as psych rock. All right, so I'm going into, which means it's going to be in my general rock collection. So I went to the 1990s section and started going through, and it's like, well, it's not there. So where the hell is it? So
Yeah. You're going to find it tomorrow. You know that.
right. Well, I'll find it a half hour from now as I
And
start
then you
going
have to put up a stream only to show that one.
yeah, really. I'll do what I'll do is an Instagram. I'll do an Instagram post when I find it. So, all right, Jorgen, what have you got to finish your examples?
Starting off with an 80s artist who did stuff in the 90s, and I'm always fascinated by that. But it is a really great one. Cyndi Lauper, Sisters of Avalon. And not a big success, but it is actually a really great one. I really like Fall Into Your Dreams, also a really great song. You Don't Know, also great. The title track, surprisingly well made by Cyndi Lauper in the 90s. This is a British band that was pretty big in UK, that I heard some songs of, and I thought that maybe they are a little boring for an entire album, but I took a chance on it and I realized that it was actually really good. Lighthouse Family, Postcard from Heaven. And really nice, soothing British pop soul. Swedish, I picked out a band that I had mixed feeling of when it came in 1997, but that I realized that these guys are really good and they still exist. They still do great music.
The Cardigans?
Weeping Willows. Now, Cardigans album came in 98, so they didn't have an album in 97. Weeping Willows and their debut album, Broken Promised Land. Weeping Willows at this time, and still do, did some, they were labeled an indie pop band, but they did a lot of 50s and 60s melodic pop style with very sad songs about broken hearts, sounding a lot like 50s and 60s style. And it was really well made. DJ Quicksilver, who actually is a Turkish-born disc jockey, had a great 1997. It's starting off with this kind of a little commercial Euro disco, vocal trance, whatever you might call it, style that will also be later come with Sash and so on. And the Quicksilver album contained when he had sampled Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream." That was one of his, if not the biggest hit. But it's a great relaxing dance music. More dance music. Red 5 from Germany. Some really nice light Euro dance style, Forces. The most
Jürgen,
famous, yeah.
when you look at that cover art, who do you think the target audience is?
Most likely those who go some dance clubs.
I'm
No,
not sure.
that looks like Spice Girls, man. That totally looks like a Spice Girls cover.
The biggest hit was a song called "I Love You Stop."
There you
And finally, a band that I've shown before, and that of course wants to show now, Brand New Heavies and their album Shelter.
go. Oh, they were great, man. I really like them.
And they had a single "You Are the Universe," who were a really great one. Really soothing, acid jazz style.
Did they have the song "Spend Some Time" on that one? Spend some time on that. As I had a single by them.
Spend Some Time is not on here, no.
No, okay, that's a good one.
But that
Okay.
was my 97. One of the last final great years for Wyatt.
Well done.
Well, I found it, so I'm going to go back and show this. Although
I'm saving
I
myself
have it,
an Instagram post.
yeah, well, I'll still do it on Instagram. But so yeah, it's this record here. All right, so this is a 10-inch EP that has Tono Bungay and then also the Tower recordings. So this has got material from the two of them. So it's got this Squealer label. But this is the one that I bought, and so I haven't. It's been like ages since I listened to it. So I'll just quickly read. Tono Bungay created improvised rock that follows the paths laid down by the Velvet Underground, Suicide, Crystallized Movements, etc. Bannister and Dennis both played in the late 80s band Fire in the Kitchen, which reaped loads of critical acclaim, blah, blah, blah. So that's Tono Bungay. And then the
Is that
Tower,
your notes? What are you reading?
I'm from Discogs about the
Okay.
band.
I was going to say it sounds like a hype sticker.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. And then the Tower Recordings, their profile reads a New York-based band that debuted in '95 with the self-released Rehearsals for Roseland and a sprawling 28-song set, a noisy, their eclectic, noisy sound and tape manipulation aesthetic. So
I showed them 2 weeks ago, Richard.
You did?
Yeah, the Tower Recordings, Matt Valentine, Eric Eder and Matt Valentine, who used to be in the Werefrogs. And they're still active. The Tower Recordings is like some of the best psychedelia Americana of the past 25 years. Like, it's an insanely good band. Well,
then I've got this. This compilation, this 10-inch compilation sampler, I guess, was released in '97. And okay, hold, wait a second. Let me make you big again for that. Show that again. All right. So yeah, I remember you showing this now, but I don't. I didn't make the connection. That I had this. Because
yeah, there's Tim Barnes, Samara Lubelski, PG6, Matt Valentine. It's on Time Lag. Time Lag is a great label for this kind of esoteric Americana.
Yeah, the songs by the Tower Recordings on this EP are Spider Hotel, Confectioner's Zed, Discount Auto Sodomy, Tedium House Punks, Swarm Cha Cha, and Weetam and the Parasomnia Major. I'm gonna have to give this a listen after this.
Was this a blind buy, Richard? I mean, how did you?
This was no cover, so it was in this generic sleeve, and I paid $1.99 for it.
Sure,
and it's like in mint condition, near mint condition. I think I played it once, and then I haven't listened to it again since. So yeah.
And the good
All right.
news is, if it's obscure, Stunty will probably know it, or one of us will.
No, I think that Jürgen showed the most obscure stuff today.
Oh, yeah.
Depends on how you see it. I show the most. It's one time only when the commercial stuff gets obscure.
Yeah.
All right. So,
All right, well, I got
Jason, what do you have for us?
Okay, I got two left, and save the best for last. I got one that's very well known. This is a band that's very well known, and I think everybody on the panel probably likes this band. I feel like I sold it, this single, and I actually rebought it, and then I got one that's super obscure that only Stunty will know. I hope Stunty knows them actually, but I'll go with the popular one first. So, Portishead.
I don't know that.
So that's from their second album. Their second album, self-titled. The debute's Dummy. Everybody loves that album. Everybody loves Portishead. Who doesn't love Portishead?
Me?
I am completely unfamiliar with them.
What?
What?
I don't like them at all. I'm like Jürgen, but like you must know them. It's
Well,
impossible.
you must
to miss
know them. I mean, they're
I've
kind of
heard,
hip hop.
I've,
They're
I
trip
have
hop.
heard, I have
know,
heard
but I-
of Portishead, but I do not know. I've never listened to their music.
You would love
John,
them.
who lived in a
Richard, you
cave
would
during the
love-
90s, knows
John
Portishead.
even knows Portishead.
I know the name.
But you've never heard them. I think, John, you might dig it. It's very
Yeah.
cinematic. It's very a little bit gloomy and trip hop. It's like hip hop beats,
No,
but
it's
with a female
like gloomy
vocal.
soul music.
Yeah, it's soulful.
I
yeah.
know of them, but I think they're dreadfully boring, in my opinion.
Oh, not energetic enough for Jorgen.
I think Ed Topo described it best. Tortoise head.
Portishead. I mean, yeah, if you're into indie rock, you'd get into Portishead. If you're, just an outside observer, I mean, they're quite well known. They only have a couple albums.
Like, I mean, they were widely popular because of the voice of the singer.
Yes, not the
and
beat so much.
It's possible that you don't like that kind of singing. I personally don't.
It's not my favorite kind of vocalist either. I like a big, wholesome kind of vocal. But we'll get into another episode on that. Okay, so the obscure one now, I thought that was not the obscure one, is a 7-inch by, this is a French artist, Small Cruel Party.
Oh!
This is
Yeah,
experimental
yeah.
music and drone.
Yeah, on Drone Records.
Yeah. It's actually a bit of a cheat because it actually first came out in 95, but this is the reissue in 97. Look at that colored 7-inch vinyl.
Yeah, that's a rule violation, but we'll let it go.
It's quite interesting stuff, though. I happen to like it. So the artist is French, I think, but he created.
I don't think he's French. I don't think
Well,
so.
it says on Discogs he's
Okay.
French. He's Mojave born. Where's Mojave? You're gonna have to tell me. French artist, and he created the project in Japan in '85.
Mojave?
And he's got Mojave, Mojave. Yeah.
That's Indian.
Mojave.
That's
That's
Mojave, but
California.
French artist.
Yeah.
Take it up with Discogs.
Mojave is
Small
in
Cruel
California.
Party.
No, but his
So-
music is kind of. I remember that he was kind of. It's very ambient, right?
It is. It's drone. It's kind of quiet noise.
I
It's
think he
pretty
did some
interesting.
stuff with the guy from this new wave band. What's the name of this singer who did stuff with Mick Harris from Scorn? The Murder Ballads. Anyways, yeah, this is kind of arty, ambient, coming from the post-punk scene originally.
I only got this maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and like a blind buy or something. But it's pretty cool. 7. That's it, man. That's my 97, pretty much.
Yeah,
Right.
John, you know which band comes Martin Bates from?
Who?
Martin with a
Bates.
Y. He's
I don't
from
know
like
if I know that.
it's an 80s like new wave
Yeah.
post-punk band.
I am looking him up. He
Yeah,
was in
I don't know him.
Priest,
I mean, I'm
Creature Box, Eyeless in
Youth
Gaza,
Culture?
Silesia,
What did you say?
Sorrow
I
for
Less in
Laughter.
Gaza. I Less in Gaza.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't. Yeah, I remember them.
And there was, I don't remember what, but there's a connection between Eyeless in Gaza and a Small Cruel Party. Anyways, sorry.
And
Obscure rabbit hole.
yeah, something else. Yeah.
All right, then, Stunty, what have you got to finish?
Okay, so I'm trying to do a Jürgen in a way. So I'm starting with one of my favorite soundtracks ever. That I know is controversial, but maybe 15% less so since the last trial, which is the soundtrack for the movie by Kevin Spacey, Albino Alligator, by Michael Brook. Michael
Soundtracks
Brook.
are okay as long as all the music is original to the
Oh,
film.
it is. It's 100%
Yeah.
original, and it features another alleged pedophile, which is the singer from REM. There is also Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but it's mostly Michael Brook, who basically is the inventor of the infinite guitar that Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno were so fond of in the 80s. And this is a very cool soundtrack because it's like a speakeasy huis clos movie. So it's a bunch of bank robbers who hide in a speakeasy, and so it's that kind of feeling. There's Matt Damon, Faye Dunaway, Viggo Mortensen, Gary Sinise, William Fichtner. So it's a very like dark movie, but also kind of like a hip movie in a way. So you get this very smoky feeling on this soundtrack, and it's really eerie ambient-ish, but with guitars, and this came out on 4AD. So also it sounds very much what this could be from the 4AD camp, and I love this. And it used to be like no one cared about it, and last time I showed it, I checked on Discogs, and it's worth a lot nowadays, unfortunately, but really, really good. Something that Richard will be familiar with, so I'm more mainstream than Jürgen. I'll show some Nurse with Wound with Stereolab, probably the most accessible Nurse with Wound track ever, which basically amounts in, it sounds like Noy doing jamming with the the Jesus and Mary chain in a way.
Stereolab, they're bigger than Portishead.
They never sold as much as Portishead, but they're yeah, in a way.
Big name,
And
yeah.
but
So
I'm just
is
saying
this
so because
the
I know
Nurse with Wound that they did with Simple Headphone Mind or Tripping with the Birds?
exactly. It's
Simple
with this
Headphone
amazing
Mind,
cover. You see, like
yeah.
a foil, and
Right.
I bought 3 copies of that when it came out to continue the trend I talked about last week. And yeah, it's John would love this, I'm sure. And it's difficult not to like actually this. But another album from Nurse with Wound from that year, a collaboration with the gypsy violin player Aranos. Acts of Senseless Beauty, which only came out as a CD back then, but then got reissued on vinyl record. Really, a really good Nurse with Wound album with the melodies, not an experimental album. I mean, a little bit in a way, but it's still very approachable and very unique. And it's, well, the title is pretty good, Acts of Senseless Beauty, because this album is really much about beauty. And an album that I remember in France when it came out, it's a German album that was quite highly regarded in France and in Germany. I remember going to London in '98, and I would see that album in the dollar bin everywhere. No one cared about that. Gas, which is Mike Inc., basically one of the fathers of German techno. On this, he goes full Biosphere Thomas Könner. This album is called Zauberberg, after Thomas Mann. So it's basically, if you would filter minimal classical music or ECM records so that it becomes ambient, that's it. So it's very serene or also very dramatic in a way, orchestral drones with a very muted kick drum. So it's kind of sounds like again like a railroad trip by night, like a very drony beat drum. With
This is a very prolific techno artist, though. Wolfgang Voigt.
And this
right?
album became cult a few years later. Suddenly, this was worth a fortune. Now it's got reissued, and you can find an expanded version of it at deluxe for quite not too much. But this was so unique when it came out because it really, I mean, it was clever to do these combinations of sounds, but he pursued that on several records, and this one is really the matrix of that sound that he created for this. All the records have like forest, like monochromic forest art pictures with a different color each time. And this one is the best album. And there's another one from the same time called October, which is an EP, which is
I
maybe
like his
even better
techno
than
stuff
that.
better. I'm
Yeah.
more of a fan
Oh,
of techno stuff. This is kind of ambient.
Ante,
Yeah.
Ante,
Yeah.
Michael at 45 RPM audiophile asked if this gas is this the gas box set?
No, this is this got reissued in a box set, indeed, in a deluxe box set, because these records started to become impossible to get. They were like 200, 300 euro records for a techno record. That's a lot, especially for music that is so recent. And this came out on Mille Plateau also, which is really one of the 4-Sync Mille Plateau. So this is one of the best labels from Germany from that time. Mille Plateau, the name comes from a book by Gilles Deleuze, the French philosopher from the New Philosophers, one of the three big guys with Roland Barthes and
postmodern guy.
But this
gas is from Cologne, right? Wolfgang is the Cologne sound.
Yeah, Wolfgang Voigt, Mike Inc. His real name is Wolfgang Voigt, but he released
Mike
stuff
in the 90s.
He was one of the first guys. He did one of the first anthems of the Love Parade, and this is basically him starting to do music that is more serious, or at least that is that has a concept beyond it just being toolish dance music. Yeah. And lastly,
he's one of the founders of the compact label, right, with his brother.
Yeah, he founded it.
It's a great label.
And lastly, go back to the beginning, hip hop, Sensational. Sensational used to be in the Jungle Brothers for a short while, and he got dumped by the band right before they got really huge and had success because he was always late at the rehearsal because he was the biggest. He smoked way too much, and his singing, his flow is the most intoxicated flow of the history of hip hop. It's like he sounds like someone on ketamine, literally. But it's good and it's great, and he made a career out of it. This is his first album under his name, and he is great. He's collaborated. He became kind of a cult figure for electronic music. That he's got like features on many different bands or projects. And this is on Word Sound, the New York label from Skis Fernando, who also put out albums by Prince Paul from the Jungle, 6 Feet and Rising High. What's that album? De La Soul, yeah. And a lot of dub and Bill Laswell stuff. So Bill Laswell actually produced some stuff with Sensational as well back then. So yeah, very good stuff, very cheap packaging, of course, just a sticker, and there you go.
Okay.
So I just have one more record I just pulled real quick. I just realized, but I'm going to get on my soapbox again and talk about the 90s and why I didn't like it. You know, growing up in the 80s, like I'm coming at it from a rock and roll perspective. So take what I say with a grain of salt, and it really doesn't pertain to a lot of what you're talking about. But live music in the 80s was very exciting. You know, I saw Metallica when they were young. You had all the hardcore scenes, the Dickies, ska bands, like even the pop bands like Duran Duran were fantastic live. Everyone looked good. Everyone moved around. In the 90s, like with the shoegaze, the indie rock, and that grunge thing, everyone was back down. Like it was like seeing Led Zeppelin or Emerson, Lake and Palmer again. And it was just so boring. And that's what led me to rockabilly. But there was the band The Makers was 1997. And to take a band like this, 4 guys, and this guy, a cool lead singer, he's like a Japanese American, 2 little amps, you know, in a simple drum kit, and I saw them probably about 600 people. It was a packed house, you know, small club or medium-sized club, and they just destroyed fuzz guitars and the singer Wild, like Question Mark and the Mysterians, and it was just so exciting compared to seeing, like, as we discussed before, Sebadoh or the Lemonheads or Soundgarden, all these boring bands. And like, I wouldn't recommend this record, you know, but live, they were just fantastic. And there was so much good stuff on the underground that was traditional. It was like seeing Jerry Lee Lewis or Gene Vincent, and had the spirit of rock and roll, and they had a look, they had their moves down, and just knew how to work a crowd, which I feel really lacked in the mainstream bands in the 90s. But that's my I'll get down off my soapbox, and that's my last record from the 90s.
I'm
Yeah,
with
right.
you. Like the way you talk about rock from that area, I understand that. And some of the stuff that you didn't like was also an appeal, had an appeal. And I know you know that. It was just not the dynamic, the stage in your whole journey. But I would agree that by 93, it was all over. Even the stuff that I think is at the tail end of the 80s, because when you went to see Cop Shoot Cop, Insane, and bands like that in the 90s, that was awesome. But by 93, like, all the energy and the creativity of it had moved to the stuff that me and Jason are talking
And
about.
you just looked at the kids, the rock kids. They were just we started dressing, not me, but they started dressing boring again. You know, it was like street clothes, and like in the 80s, you could tell everyone was dressed up, whether you were heavy metal, new wave, and
Yeah, but in a way,
the bands had a style.
In a way, that's exactly the opposite also, because I remember that, like, suddenly with the grunge thing, it was exciting to be dressed normal in a way, because everyone was so dressed up before that that became the norm.
And I did do. It's how I dressed, like, after my hardcore stuff, but I wasn't influenced off grunge because I was doing it simultaneously or before, you know. But you know, it got bored after 2 years of it. You know, you're looking for the excitement, and
it's true. Like,
and by 93, I was bored.
That's the
there
2
was
years
nothing.
the 93. That's the 2 years you're talking about.
Yeah. And maybe Nirvana I wasn't into them. I kind of missed the boat, but they might have been exciting live. But Alice in Chains weren't. You know, whatever was happening, the metal bands were ridiculous.
No, but Nirvana, seeing Nirvana, it was exciting. You would see Kurt or Chris throw the bass or the guitar up, and that they fractured.
But I already had spent my youth, like, I already been to CBGBs in the hardcore days where it was just madness. So and I already saw Black Sabbath, but I didn't see anything new in Nirvana. It was new for the young kids. It was new.
But it was done in a different way, though, because it was done more as this attitude you described that was not your thing, the kind of depressing no future. They were doing it, look how numb we are, which is not the CBGB thing at all, from what I know.
Yeah, I like, you know, I don't have to explain. You know where I'm coming from. I'm not knocking everything. I'm just kind of my own journey.
Totally.
But like the excitement and the danger and the fun was missing in a lot of stuff.
I totally agree, and I think that, like, the danger and the fun that was still there up until somewhere around the early mid 90s, if you dig deep, because these bands like this Godflesh record, for example, you had to dig to find it. But if you wanted to find that energy and that creativity, you had to move to electronic music.
And the energy and danger was definitely around in the music. I was just talking about live performances, and it takes a skill. Like a band, this unknown band, the Makers. I mean, it takes a skill to have just 4 guys and just like raise the roof and have the whole place dancing and make. It's not easy, because I've been in bands. It's not easy to get 10 people to move. You know, it's a skill.
But I'll tell you what, it's also, again, in the eye of the beholder, because by 1908, something amazing happened for live performances for electronic music. Suddenly, you had bands that took, like, the very first MacBook on stage. And just seeing that for the first few years was, wow, this is incredible. And after 2 or 3 years, we realized, oh, this is the most boring stuff ever. But just because it's new, of course, and it's kind of ballsy having someone on stage who doesn't even look at you, who's just, you see the light reflected on his face from the screen, and you don't even see what else on the screen, and the music is new, so of course it's exciting. I mean, it's just that every style of music, there's a curve of learn learning about how is it performed, what can you do, what is the margin, what does the technical aspects of the instruments you're using limit you for. And, you know all that. Yeah.
Yeah, in a lot of respect, in any respect of music, that to me, Nirvana, they were singing about, it was a rebellion against what music had become, and so that to me, kind of what they were doing, because as soon as Kurt Cobain died, what happened? We got a lot of other not very good music coming back in, boring music, not very innovative. It was a short-lived flash in the pan. I did want to mention that that David Bowie record that you showed, Jorgen, finally figured out why that it has no information, no liner notes about who was
bootleg.
performing. It's a bootleg, yes.
It's not a bootleg. It's released on CD in '97.
It's an unauthorized. It's an unauthorized version. So it's not for sale. So yeah, you can't sell it. And so that's why there's not a whole lot of information on it. The tracks are from Entertain Me Limited, and it's live show at Smith's Old Bar in Atlanta in 1994.
I mean,
but I was curious if it was Adrian Belew that was playing or if it was Carlos Alomar. That was really what I was trying to figure out.
At kind of the peak time of MTV, if David Bowie releases a live album, that's a big thing. That's not like something you missed.
Yeah,
but the bootleg is fine. I love bootlegs. If they're good sounding, there's a lot of good sounding bootlegs. I've got a couple Frank Zappa bootlegs that are on vinyl that sound really, really good. And I've got a shitload of electronic recordings, on a hard drive.
I bought it in a regular store. Actually, I didn't buy it in any kind of obscure.
Oh yeah, my Tool record is my copy of Tool's Enema or however you say it is a bootleg. It's an unauthorized copy. I bought it in a record store.
If you go, Jorgen, if you go to last Christmas, I was in the biggest record store in Paris, and I'm friends with the guys who run it, and they showed me what was the best sellers, and it was CD bootlegs of performance from David Bowie, from the Velvet Undergrounds that they were selling by the hundreds, and nowhere it says it's a bootleg. It doesn't advertise it as, but it's like what they call gray market, because it has.
I actually didn't even buy it on a record store. I bought it in one of those where the huge food market sold records.
And guess who is the guys who work for these, who are in charge of buying stuff for these chain stores? They want numbers. So they buy the cheapest possible in large numbers. And that's often where you find the bootlegs, especially in the 80s, 90s.
I'm not disappointed. I feel like this one rose in value for being bootleg.
The one genre that David Bowie never touched was techno.
No, but he kind of did with Jason. He did with Outside. He had remixes by Trent Reznor, by Photek.
Well, that's industrial, right? Like he did the "I'm Afraid of Americans" industrial thing, but not so much techno.
He had drum and bass remixes.
Did he? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know, like Madonna did a lot of house and techno, but I didn't think Bowie got in there. But
he might have if he had survived.
I think he was back to being like the classic. But I'm sure that John has tons of bootlegs.
Me?
Yeah.
No, not really.
Not really?
No, Sisters of Mercy, Ramones, whatever I bought in the 80s. I'm not the biggest. I like a live album, for classic rock stuff.
No. I'm not necessarily.
Bootlegs. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, pirate. Yes, I have a lot, especially in the punk stuff.
Yeah.
When you want reissues of early 80s, late 70s punk bands. Yeah.
And also in country, rock, and blues.
Oh, all that. Jeez, I have hundreds of. Yeah. I didn't even think of all my rockabilly and garage stuff. That's all boot.
Yeah,
A little
yeah.
message for Christopher. I showed this one earlier, Christopher, so you don't have to miss it. Very
Well,
him.
Thank
It's
you
funny
all
you say
for-
that, Stunty. All those comps I have, like I think of those as legit records. I've had
Yeah.
them so long, and everyone knows the series and stuff. I don't even think of those as bootlegs.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's part of the history of how this music
Yeah, when-
managed
when
to
I hear-
survive.
When I hear bootleg, I'm thinking like unofficial live album, and then or like some like if it's an album, an actual legit album that was released and a copy of it, a
Oh
pirate.
yeah, then there's very seldom need to have a bootleg of an official album.
Yeah, but like
unless it was never released on unless it was only released on CD.
yeah, but like a Killed by Death or a Pebbles, or a Desperate Rock and Roll, those comps are
Yeah.
famous, and you don't even think of them as all being like illegitimate.
Yes, yeah. Well, I thank you guys for saving the year 1997 from
Thank you for having us, Richard.
relegating it to the dustbin of musical history.
You sound
it's
like
gonna-
that the year 97 would be erased from history if he weren't here.
It's going to be even worse, for at least for me, for 1998. So if I'll have some material from 1998 that would certainly be helpful, because I've been going through my my discography and I got nada. I've got nothing, not even one from 1998. So
Richard,
which would be
Oh,
the-
man.
Sorry,
We
I'm
got
just going to
some
take
90
off. I got to
98.
walk the dog. I could hear him barking.
Yeah.
All right,
Cheers,
see you,
John.
John.
So thank you all
Nice seeing
for
you. See you, man.
joining and helping out, and thank you to the audience. And always remember, pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.